goodbye. It's better to say goodbye. Why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. So why did you say goodbye? Quiet like the ocean, with the rumble running deep. This is how I see you, when you hide your feels from me. Why you heavy-hearted? Cut the silence, talk to me. Release your mind, get what you need. Easily, we've been falling in disbelief. I think I'm ready for another try, but this feels like the last time. So why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. Why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. So why did you say goodbye?
Deep minds, we were forced to be alone. Unknowns and nowhere is the same. And even when it seems like there's no way out, we'll grow a little closer. We water, we flow. All of us together, we're good, we flow. Nothing is the same, but I won't hold back. I won't hold back. I won't hold back. 'Cause we're better together, better as one. 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 Deep minds, we were forced to be alone. Unknowns and nowhere is the same. Grow a little closer, we're water, we flow. All of us together, we're good, we flow. Nothing is the same, but I won't hold back. I won't hold back. I won't hold back. Cause we're better together, better as one. 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 don't have forever. Maybe I could take your pain and turn it into pleasure. Into pleasure. As time goes by, my love grows stronger. Can you feel it the same way I do? As time goes by, I can't wait any longer. Just say that you'll be with me too. As time goes by, my love grows stronger. Can you feel it the same way I do? As time goes by, I can't wait any longer. Just say that you'll be with me too. Just say that you'll be, say that you'll be. I'd be there for you whenever you need me. Whenever you need me. But you've been holding back. Maybe you're just not ready. Baby, do you feel the same? Or do you feel the pressure? I promise I can take your pain and turn it into pleasure. Into pleasure. As time goes by, my love grows stronger. Can you feel it the same way I do? As time goes by, I can't wait any longer. Just say that you'll be with me too. As time goes by, my love grows stronger. Can you feel it the same way I do? As time goes by, I can't wait any longer. Just say that you'll be with me too.
Running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now.
Hi everyone! In PUBG Mobile version 2.2, we'll officially release a new Battle Royale map, Nusa. Nusa is a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer tropical island. The island is bright and sunny and has beautiful beaches, rolling hills, and dense vegetation. In addition to the natural scenery, it also has many areas that have a unique style and combat characteristics. Without further ado, let's take a closer look now. As As a whole, being a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer map, Nusa is the smallest map PUBG Mobile has released to date. It also has the most compact structure among all the Battle Royale maps. We can make some comparisons by looking at the data. Erangel is 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers in size, and 100 players participate in each match. This means there is an average of 1.56 players per square kilometer. In Nusa, an average of 32 players fight in a 1 square kilometer area. Conflicts are intense, and players will start shooting right after landing. In the southern part of the map is a heart-shaped island. 2 paths connect this island with the gorgeous Pink Beach. The Ferris wheel and hot air balloon are both located on Pink Beach, which highlight the romantic atmosphere of the beach. But keep in mind that the terrain of Pink Beach is rather open and has little cover within a certain area. If players want to move around Pink Beach, they can do so with the help of smoke grenades to obscure enemies' vision, or push the beach balls on the beach and use them as moving cover. But if you do so, remember to keep an eye on their durability. In short, Pink Beach is beautiful and romantic, but you must take care if you plan to spend some time there. Bulan Bay is located in the northwest part of the island, and the coast is quite low there. The cliffs on both sides have a large height difference, and players can move between them with a zip line, utilizing the advantages of high ground. Players at the top can observe where enemies are moving in the bay. Meanwhile, players in the bay need to move around covertly. There is also a cavern connected to the sea in the northern part of Bulan Bay. Players can jump there directly. The cavern extends in all directions, and players can explore this area. In addition to the natural scenery, Nusa also has many urban areas, of which the largest is Telepak Town, which is located in the southeastern part of the map. Buildings are scattered everywhere in the urban area, and close-range street fights can break out at any time. There are premium apartment buildings in Telepak Town. These buildings have elevators that can be used, which adds another dynamic to searching, attacking, and defending in the building. For example, players can set up an ambush in the elevator. By getting in and not selecting a floor, they can then give enemies a surprise when they enter to use the elevator. The rooftops of buildings in Telepak Town are also connected by zip lines, which gives players more flexibility in urban battles. If the zip line is destroyed, it can be repaired with a tactical crossbow. I believe Telepak Town will give players a unique 3D alley combat experience. If you like fast-paced battles and enjoy thrilling shootouts right after landing, you can land at the Science Center at the heart of the map. The design of the modern orbital satellite roof feels really high-tech. The Science Center has 3 floors. Each floor is spacious and contains lots of supplies, which attracts many players to loot this area. As you can imagine, very intense battles will break out between these floors. At the top of the Science Center is a rooftop with a multi-layer structure. Players can look far into the distance from here for a great visual advantage. However, they'll also be exposed as there's nowhere to hide. If you want to land directly on the rooftop, you must check if there are enemies nearby to ensure your own safety. In short, if you're confident in your close-range shooting skills, you're welcome to land at the Science Center. Like the Science Center, Flame Village is also located at the center of the map. The terrain is quite low there, and the village is surrounded by mountain slopes. There are many huts in the village, and there are many places where you can stand on the beams of the huts. Players can climb or jump onto the beams to ambush other players. But there's one thing you mustn't forget. A tactical crossbow used with firebolts can set the huts on fire. This will expose the players hiding in them. Of course, firebolts will burn and deal damage to enemies when they are hit. In addition to huts, there are also brick buildings that cannot be set on fire in Flame Village. They occupy a large area, contain plenty of supplies, and are high conflict areas. If you're confident in your shooting skills, you can choose to land at Flame Village or Science Center at the heart of the map. It'll also be convenient for moving to areas along the edge. Other than the previously mentioned areas, this island also has winding and rugged mountain paths, a shipyard where the whistle roars, a regal resort with wide and open terrain, Sunset Street, which is planted with mini banana trees, Crystal Bay, which has secret rooms, and more. These are all gorgeous locales that can bring players different gaming experiences. After hearing the above introduction, I'm sure players already understand what makes Nusa so uniquely fun. Lots of supplies for fast looting. The verticality of the terrain increases the strategic depth of battles. And the 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer size makes firefights inevitable. What are you waiting for? Gather your friends and enjoy a rowdy vacation on Nusa. For more details, don't forget to follow the official PUBG mobile community. See you next time!
Hey there, fellow PUBG mobile players! Along with the version 2.2 update, we have made a series of improvements on the game's basic controls. Let's take a look at the improvements. First, improvements to the controls and display. We have increased the display priority of the wheel when the throwing wheel is activated. Now it'll be easier for players to select the items they wish to throw. In this update, a countdown will be displayed whenever the play zone is going to shrink. This way, it will be made more aware of the next play zone, and players can plan their routes more effectively. We've improved the feedback effect of marked items. Whenever you tap and hold to mark an item successfully, the feedback will be more obvious. When the player is aiming down sights, the markings within the scope have been optimized, so the sight is less obscured. When a player jumps, after respawning or deploying an emergency pickup, it's now possible to mark the battleground with light columns. After a team wins, the buttons for MVP likes and summon statue will be combined. Now players can send a like automatically whenever they summon a statue. On the results screen, we have added teammate numbers, so now players can use the number to identify each other and give likes to their favorite teammates. To make spectating more convenient for players, we have tweaked the button size on the spectating screen. This reduces the chance of tapping the button by mistake. I'm sure firearm balancing is a concerning issue for many players. In this update, we have significantly improved the burst shot of both the SKS and Mini 14 by greatly improving their handling. This will increase their stability fired consecutively and increase the damage dealt to enemies. Perhaps these two firearms will become your weapon of choice after the enhancements. For airdrop weapons, we have made some adjustments to the controls and damage dealt to better balance the airdrop weapons. In the new version, there are lots of new features worth checking out. When you acquire a firearm finish of your liking, you'll definitely want to admire it from time to time. In this update, we've added a firearm inspection feature. Players can now use this to admire their favorite firearm. During combat, players can tap the emote to enter first-person perspective to inspect the current active weapon. A friendly reminder, never inspect your firearm during combat, or you might overlook the enemies before you. Do keep in mind that this feature is currently only available for certain firearms, but it will be gradually rolled out to other firearms in later versions. The recommended layout feature is one of the many new features. When players customize the controls, it's now easier to apply a custom layout recommended by the system with one tap. We've also added a trunk system. Players can now make exchanges while riding vehicles. Use this feature to exchange supplies with teammates. But remember, the size of the trunk depends on the vehicle type. The visual presentation of profile cards have been improved. Players can now set their gender on their profile cards. On the results screen, we have streamlined the results process and improved on the layout, as well as the MVP results emote. On the new results screen, assists will be included in the stats. In future matches, you can try cooperating with your teammates. Even if you don't make the final strike, assists will help boost your results. We have added stationary targets to the training grounds. After firing, the damage dealt and bullet trajectory will be displayed. This helps to more closely recreate situations that players may face in matches. To make it easier for players to practice shooting, the most recently used firearms configuration will be applied by default when entering the training grounds the next time. These are the major improvements for the basic experience in version 2.2. If you want to learn more about this update's content, don't forget to follow the official PUBG mobile community. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. See you next time.
little bit greater HP for Victor. The boosters up.
Just separation could be the reason why they don't close out this game. Swaying on the top.
I give it, look at my eyes.
There's lying X looking to swing on through on the side of it.
I got a lot on the line. This with a different approach. While they spend time in the boat.
Close together and grouped up. A good nade might find all they're looking for. Leg Z, leg X.
Well, we ended the day off yesterday asking ourselves, are Big back? That's the question on my mind today when we saw them finally put up a good performance yesterday and showing us the true colors of what Big can provide us here in these games. This is the PUBG Mobile Pro League Western Europe Fall Summer. You know, in my head, I'm like, I shouldn't say summer, and because I thought that, I said summer. It's fall. It's actually getting cold outside here in Toronto, at least for me, and it is the year 2022. I'm just Captain joined by Max and Kalaris, who is looking very, I want to say orange, but that's more yellow. It's more between both.
I'm getting in the fall festive season.
You're looking like a pumpkin.
That's right, yes. I'm not only ginger, but I had to exude it even more, Jason. I'm good to go.
Well, Max, I know you like to order your pumpkin spice lattes. How are you feeling?
I don't like coffee, but I will take the coffee out of it. I like pumpkin-based stuff, so yes, I do like it quite a bit. But no, yeah, hype for today, and they said, Big, are they back or not? I mean, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe. Yeah, exactly. We ended up saying they did a great one day, but can they be consistent with it? But I do have to go back to the pumpkin thing really quickly, Max. Do you think Monster Energy has a pumpkin-flavored energy drink coming out?
I don't know if pumpkin is something I want in my energy drink, but I mean, try it, and if it's good, I'll drink it. Oh.
Okay. Well, you heard it here. Monster Energy, if you're watching, which is actually our official partner here at PMPL, Max would like to try a pumpkin monster and see if it's good. He will taste test it for you.
In my horn glass, I'll do it.
In his horn, okay. Yep.
Or in the fondue, you're gonna...
Okay, let's move past this. Social media, you guys hit us up over on socials. You can see everything going on PMGC related as well as around the leagues here. Just check out all the official PUBG Mobile eSports channels you can see here below Max. But gentlemen, yeah, we're going into yesterday. We finally got to see some Western Europe teams show up. We got to see not only Big, we got to see Eastern Stars do extremely well as well. We got to see, again, CIS doing what they do. Top of the leaderboard almost every single week, it seems. You see here in our overalls, Big, they got a chicken dinner done. They got 29 eliminations, which is, I think, for me, the really important aspect of it, because we've been definitely criticizing their confidence when it comes to taking fights. And they're sitting pretty in first place at the moment.
Yeah, the second game that they played, which was round 3, as they'd missed that first game due to the group's setup as a whole, with the 9 eliminations and second placement was really kind of the, I guess, the changer. I guess in terms of seeing them actually do something big with a game as a whole on Sanhok. It's a battleground that we saw them thrive on in the past, and up until now, it's kind of been like question marks. Where are they? You know, are they able to replicate those kind of performances from previous seasons? And they were able to do so in that Sanhok, and then of course that lent into the Erangel right after, where they looked fantastic too. So I've got high hopes to see if they can continue on with that pace.
And especially with that win they got on Erangel right after, right? They actually won against Na'Vi. They got a 2nd place, and VIRTUS.PRO, they got a 3rd place. So it's up against like some really heavy hitters of the lobby. So it does feel like they were more confident to take that fight in particular. So yeah, if that confidence is still there in these next days, they can try and potentially get some good results. But of course, as I said, we'll have to wait and see how the pace is going to go today for them.
Yeah, and at least in Big's sense, we normally see Mihi as like one of the top players for the team, but we've been seeing Beast actually beasted it up here yesterday in their games. But looking down the rest of the list, you can see Unicorns 11th, 14th place. Again, that was our basically #1 Western European team when it came to the end of Phase 2, but there's still some time for them to improve. It's just 1 day of games. We still have 5 more to go until we are done with Phase 3, and that means we're going to be getting into the finals, actually, which is going to be extra exciting, because not only are we going to have teams getting through the European regionals, we're going to be able to lock in teams who are making it into PMGC, which is right around the corner. And one team who is gunning for PMGC here, but they're going to have to do it through qualification, not through PMGC points. Well, it's going to be QODEX, the team we saw get a back-to-back chicken dinner on day 1 of Phase 1. Since then, they've been pretty much almost non-existent until yesterday. We finally got to see them come back to light here and show some performance in the form of Moneyken, who was able to actually help carry his team through in quite a few situations.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting to see how Moneyken has been able to step up for the team. But what I'm most happy about is that the win that QODEX actually got yesterday on Miramar MUERTE was actually out of the game very early, actually, in that finisher, and their team had to just rely on themselves. And I'm especially happy we saw, I believe it was Vito in that game that actually had a really, really strong impact on all the teams around them to clear that space, make sure they secured the chicken din on top of it. So no, QODEX is not just MUERTE, now QODEX is QODEX, if that makes any sense what I just said. But it is seemed like we're seeing a little bit more of a team effort, which is always a step in the right direction.
It was a good fight up the side of the hills, right? On the side on Miramar, and how that terrain plays out. It is not easy to be able to make that fight up. I still have my question marks around QODEX, though, if I'm totally honest. I mean, yes, they got the win with the 16 eliminations, but the rest of the day was a 12th place, 11th place, 15th place. So nice to see them get the big win on the board and push them up. But beyond that, other than that win, what else did they do yesterday? Not a whole lot. So I still have my reservations about them. I think if they can get to the end game as 4 with MUERTE on the board as well, they've got good opportunities to round out games here. It's just getting there, because they always kind of come in wounded, and that's not what you want to see.
Yeah, I do have to echo your doubts a little bit, right? We did see it happen in Phase 1 where they had a really good start, right? You got themselves 2 chicken dinners, absolutely fantastic, and then they just completely fall off, and we haven't seen them for, what was it, like 3 weeks almost, that we didn't see them play at all and get some good results. So it could happen again. Hopefully they can build some momentum off the back of that win, but it's been an entire day. That momentum might have already been lost, so we'll have to see how the first few games go today.
I think for me, and I know we're saying that other players have been able to step up around MUERTE, but I think thinking back to like Phase 2 and maybe towards the end of Phase 1, I just have so many clips replaying in my mind of MUERTE just being eliminated really early on in a match, whether he's like nading himself, he gets rushed down by a couple different players. And it seems like QODEX have kind of gotten around that early game strut that they've been dealing with of really being punished, losing players, not getting a good position. And it seems when they obviously can get through that early game, they play a little bit better and they perform a little bit better. But speaking of, another team has been performing better. Eastern Stars, Kapahalo, the Warlord and co. I'm still hoping for him to come back, Claris. I still want to see what we have planned for him for over a year now. That you've invested your time, your energy, your brain power, and your money into this skit. But are we going to ever see it? I don't know.
Oh, it needs to be a pop-off moment, I think, is fair to say. And we're not quite there with the pop-off moment just yet, but I mean, they start Phase 3 as they almost did Phase 1. I mean, they got a first place in the second round of Phase 1, and now they get a first place in the first round of Phase 3 here with 12 eliminations. Yeah. They seem to have these spurts of starting hot, and I mean, the numbers will reflect that to a certain degree here, with them having a great day yesterday overall, despite a 16th place on that Sanhok, but you can't begrudge people too much when it comes to a 16th place on Sanhok. It can be a bit messy.
And unfortunately, what we link Eastern Stars to is being a little bit inconsistent, right? It's just those topsy-turvy days, getting themselves some good results, then followed up with some bad results, back into good results, and that hurts them quite a bit on the long run, of course, in these long-run tournaments. And especially, they were a team that were potentially contending for that race to PMGC, right? Just behind Gamelord at the start of the season. And with how the tournament went so far, I don't think they've been really able to catch up to them that much. I would say the focus on PMGC for this PMPL is pretty much over for them. You should focus on making it in the championship and trying to get in top 3 there, but you got the CIS teams, you got the Turkish teams too. It's going to be rough, I'm going to say, for Eastern Stars if they want to make it in PMGC. So there's a chance, but right now I would say your focus should be on the championship, making it there and trying to perform there.
And of course, a question mark for Eastern Stars was the development of Keme on that roster. How is that going to go? Of course, we saw it at the start of Phase 1. Very nice, seemingly. Phase 2, kind of a bit of again, a question mark, similar to what I was thinking about QODEX. Like, where are these guys? You know, what are they doing? And yesterday, when I look back at it as a whole, I'm trying to even look at the stats and see where we're at. Keme was pretty high with 7 eliminations yesterday coming in for him. So back on the board, back on the road again, maybe for Keme. We'll see how that develops for Eastern Stars.
I think for me on that note about Keme is, does he fill the shoes of Octavian? Right, because Octavian obviously left the team. Does he perform as well as him? Because Octavian was a big heavy hitter for Eastern Stars.
It's a good point, because yesterday, Octavian, 10 eliminations. I think he was second overall when it came to the performance for the start of Phase 3. So just behind Beast, of all people, and above Tixi, which speaks volumes in itself, right? So I think, yeah, whether or not he does fill those shoes of Octavian yet remains to be seen. I think Octavian probably has a little bit of a fire lit under him ever since actually leaving Eastern Stars, now on Nexus. Definitely something to prove on Nexus.
Yeah, and I think we'll all agree, though, really quickly here, Max, is that we feel like Keme does have a lot of potential, and I think probably does have a ceiling that could surpass Octavian when he does mesh with the team correctly and continues to work on himself.
Yeah, I think me and Kalash agreed on this a few days ago, actually, on broadcast, which is this is a player that has a lot of potential. I think he just needs that experience, right? And I think him making it into a championship in particular, he would learn so much. Even if he doesn't make it to PMGC, which is going to be very tough for them to make it, even if he just plays against the Turkish teams and sees what the caliber of gameplay is internationally, I think he's going to come back next year in PMPL Western Europe and just be like a completely different player. So yeah, my hopes is to see what he can bring on the long term, right? He's still learning right now, but in a few seasons time, I think this could be one of the top players of the region without any doubt in my mind.
Yeah, something to look forward to actually in later on seasons, and continue to watch how they improve and how he improves in particular. But a team who has been improving finally is Big, and we're going to actually show you this in a graphical way here, taking a look at the player stats from the first two phases combined up against phase 3 here, and we can see the damage numbers of B's 200 going to be the max on his team, average eliminations 0.95. like, this is a shadow of their former selves from last season, from even the season before. Big were just not able to take these fights and do work with them.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the average survival time, right, and they were not playing the normal battle royale. They had different settings, I have the impression, because 15 minutes, that is well, not enough if you want to try and get those chicken dinners, unfortunately. The highest was Swave just shy of the 16-minute mark, but they were just not surviving enough when they were taking fights against even by the average damage and eliminations. They were just getting absolutely, unfortunately, wrecked in every single fight they were taking. It were just not looking good, and they were struggling versus the CIS teams. And I think Kalashi brought it up a few times that their initial drop locations make it a little bit hard sometimes for them to get in decent circle spots. So yeah, everything was not looking good for the first two phases, but as you said, Jason, like phase 3, they starting to come back maybe.
Yeah, these numbers are NSF PM, not safe for PUBG Mobile, I think is fair to say. But like, as we move on, these ones are safe for PUBG Mobile. This is the transition that we've seen, right, into what was coming from yesterday, and seeing the average eliminations bump up, just the average survival time. Again, across a small sample size, but it bodes well if they're able to keep this kind of momentum up here. Given that, I think the second place, more so to me than the first place, was quite impressive on Sanhok. They could have had a back-to-back, quite honestly, yesterday, if that Sanhok scenario, if they hadn't all moved as 3 and kind of given a little bit of that information away to their opponents. I think it was MUERTE. Was it MUERTE? Yeah, so ultimately, I think they could have converted even more yesterday for Big.
Yeah, and obviously, like, we have to just wait and see how things are going to go for them. We can't predict the future. We can only really theorize off of the one day of play. But I think the general consensus of us is that they're playing better together. They're able to win fights where they're previously struggling. They seem to have gotten back into their expertise of taking on these fights against squads and not losing them anymore, obviously. But we'll see. There's still another day of games, and let's actually take a look at the games we have coming up today and the battlegrounds that we're going to be playing on. If you guys were watching yesterday, you did remember, we hopefully remember that I said today is the double Sanhok day, followed up by double Erangel as well. But tomorrow will be double Sanhok and double Miramar. We're on a little bit of a cycle here within our phases. So we'll have one Miramar today, double Sanhoks. Now, double Sanhoks for me, I'm curious how Big are going to play things out, especially on that Northwest Island. We know them and Navi have already clashed before. We've seen Eastern Stars drop up there as well. We've seen, I think, even TJB. It's going to be interesting to see how Big adapt themselves over the course of today, as well as all of our other teams.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, Kalash, right? Big, normally, when it came to playing Sanhok in the past, they were a team that were highly successful on that battlegrounds, right? They had a good game plan that worked every single time, and now there's not many teams on a Northwestern Island. There's a lot of potential in a spot like that, but unfortunately, they struggled in the first two phases. But if their confidence is back and they're just not too scared of the CIS teams and willing to take fights, I think that Sanhok could really help them in these next 2 days to actually step up heavily in these overall rankings. I mean, they're currently still first, but they could remain up there. So Sanhok is a battleground I'm going to be very aware of to see how Big are going to play it.
It's not just as big as well, it's in a former life as Team Destiny when we saw them being, you know, powerful on this battleground too. It's not even only the Northwest Island that we think, you know, should be able to lend itself nicely to them in terms of a drop and then potential rotations down the line. We also saw, even when a plane path in inverted commas was hard on Sanhok, which is not normal, they actually went down to that Camp Charlie location and had okay success with it. So yeah, they're seeming more adaptive. I think that, again, their positions are a little bit in flux when it comes to Sanhok, and we'll see if that can smoothen out.
And as a last little note here, for Big in particular, I think this phase is hands down the most important phase for them.
Oh yeah.
In a couple different ways, right? Obviously, at the end of each phase, you get points directly into the finals based off where you stand at the end of that phase. But also at the end of this phase, there's another ranking where it takes all 3 of your phases combined, and you get points into the finals based off where you stand there. So not only can Big get potentially 20 points alone from just placing first at the end of this phase, they can also get quite a few more points in the overall standings as well, which can help them so much when it comes to the finals. But that's obviously still yet to be seen. They still have quite a few days to go. But we also have our own little game now here on the desk. We have our talent quiz. This time, it's going to be about Lynn from TJB here. And this one, honestly, was a little bit tough to imagine. True or false? Use the panda plush as an armrest while playing. Now, I've seen what Beowulf lays down. He sometimes plays like on a pillow. I've seen like other players play in completely weird kind of ways. But Max, your explanation of your answer for me is what sold it, to be honest.
I mean, now my explanation doesn't work anymore because it's not even there, but it's because they also said the shop where he bought it, and I was like, that's too much detail. I think they're hiding something. Now the question changed, of course, a little bit, but I think I stuck with no because of that. So that was my explanation, trying to be smart, but it's probably wrong. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it is very specific. We know they played on Panda previously, but would he be playing on Panda? Claris, what was your thought?
I seem to recall a world where I've seen something like this on a webcam shot, be it, or somewhere. So I had to go with yes. No, not that. No. So I went with yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, I went with no as well with Max because he led me correctly yesterday, and there's been a yes now, so clearly it has to be a no. And we're right. Let's go, Max. Let's go.
I told you, I took so many exams. I know how the people that are preparing these questions think, okay? So, but it's too much detail is wrong. It's obviously wrong, so look at that. They killed it.
Look at that, Max. You're 6 points away from Claris now. Not bad.
I'm 18.
We're getting there.
I can drink now. Look at that. I only drink Monsters.
I remember when Claris had like 20 more points than us practically. But let's actually kick off our first match here of our second day of Phase 3. Let's head on over to John on a Blank to bring you all the action.
We're getting into our double Sanhok, double Miramar day today. Blank. Hang on a minute. Is it double Miramar? Have I just jumped the gun on that? Either way, we're getting 2 Sanhoks, right? That's what I definitely know for sure, as well as a double Erangel, as Jason is kindly still...
John! Don't listen to him. It's double Miramar, double Sanhok.
I've been baited! Oh, Jason.
Don't worry about it. Oh, never mind. Jason...
Have you been baited?
I think I've been baited as well. I think it is double Erangel today. We're fine. I was paying attention. I think I was just very worried about the whole Picardo drop situation. But if that's not the case, still one of them, I'm absolutely fine. Get straight into Sanhok off the bat. Hopefully these teams can be just as powerful as Jason's current quiff on the top of his head, because that thing looks unbelievably strong right now. The amount of gel in that thing to keep that upright must be just out of this world. But we're heading right into Sanhok at the moment. And a lot of these teams are starting to gel a lot more. We're seeing QODEX look like a much better team in terms of just potential. Big also looking a lot stronger too. At the moment though, VP will be picking up their spot over towards Camp Alpha here at the beginning of the game, and Eastern Stars taking a much larger split over towards the mountain.
Nice hard north shift there to kick things off on Sanhok. This is quite an interesting one. Likely to end on the mainland here, Blank. I mean, that's where the majority of the land is. How do the Eastern Stars navigate this? And how do the teams on that southwest island choose to move away? Because at the moment, it looks like we've got outposts from 3 of them, with VP actually taking position over where Big normally drop.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a notable drop as well. I said it right at the beginning that, you know, they're taking up Big's position here nice and easy. They do strike out a little bit aggressively down towards the south side with Tudica picking up a vehicle there, which will be absolutely imperative going forward, having that vehicle available to yourself so you can, you know, get out of dodge fairly quickly. MADBULLS were instantly towards that engagement on Game Lord, and Game Lord sent away quite nicely there. You know, I think that I was thinking about this earlier. I was thinking about maybe doing a tweet about this. I wasn't sure, but I ended up not doing it. But Robs, just need to congratulate that guy at the moment, because I think that he was kind of on the down low a lot of times for Game Lord, quite frequently in previous seasons, even this season. He's a very good support player, but not necessarily the guy we were always talking about. I think right now, with Victor and Narvalo not being the star players that we have seen them in the past, Robs has made a massive step up to try and keep his team within the boundaries of getting towards that top side and getting some decent points in a lead up towards the finals, so they can challenge if they want to, which is something that I'm very, very happy to see. And I think you do need, in those situations, someone on the team that maybe is the unlikely hero to step up and draw the cape around them.
Remove the mask, declare who they are, reveal the secret identity.
It was me, Robs, all along.
It was me, Robs. I am Iron Man.
Playing on Narvalo and Victor's account at the same time.
Whoa, 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 whoa. How many hands does this guy have?
A fair few. He's got some cybernetic implants to make sure that happens.
That's fair. That's reasonable. That's a reason. Well, that's actually no. Wait, no, that's fully unreasonable. Wait, stop that.
Cease this. Now I just want to see like an image of Robs as Dr. Rock. Doom taking down one player from Arabian Champions there. I think they did actually find another as well, so that would be down to 62 players in the lobby with Arabian Champions losing 2 right off the bat there. Little bit unfortunate. Left with Hamo down towards Camp Charlie. Unsure whether a player is up towards that north side on the Crossroads compound. It's Wadea all on his lonesome. I think for Pioneer, oh God, the servers just know where I'm going with this one. Pioneer in boot camp, I think they have a very, very excellent spot out here, and they haven't been able to translate this into a massive victory on Sanhok as of yet, even though it is one of these high priority compounds that no one wants to challenge them in, because we have to talk about their capability in gunfights, in team fights as well. I think anyone who has challenged Pioneer out in boot camp has felt the thunder a little bit, felt the heat from this team, and has decided that it's not really worth it.
No, it's really tricky to go for it, and it's a risk. I mean, we've seen how hot drops go in several different locations. Sometimes we see Paradise Resort hot dropped. We find places that do end up not going well, and in general, it's just a bad idea. When you add into the mix, as you say, the prowess in the gunfights for Pioneer, it's going to be really, really tough. The thing that Pioneer need to do, and I'm sure they are looking to, is figure out how to leave boot camp fairly quickly and get onto one of those hillsides around them. Because sure, you can hold in boot camp for a long time, but you've got to allow teams to surround you and make your life harder if the circle doesn't go to you.
They have been adapting to that quite frequently, though, and I do think that sometimes these circles maybe are a symptom of the lack of success we've seen from Pioneer in terms of those endgame finishes with a huge amount of eliminations, because they do pick up some really strong compounds around boot camp early when we see a sudden shift on the circle. Oftentimes we will see that shift away, and because down towards the Crossroads compounds, just the south of boot camp, it's quite flat a lot of times, and if you do come in there and you have to leave a compound, a lot of teams are looking your way, and you're going to get picked apart as you're making that exit if you don't have enough smokes to facilitate that, essentially.
Fortunate for Death Machine, they walk out onto the hillsides occupied by XTEAM on the northeast side of Paradise Resort. Couple of those compounds down to 3 for Death Machine, and XTEAM may be looking to push onto Samo here. Beg for mercy. Moving forward, Samo will be aware of this, but isolated from the rest of the team. If 2 players push here, it's not going to be a good time unless you can hit one of those very, very quickly. You look at the off angle, though, coming through from Death Machine. The player up the hill, Hamodi, for the squad, will need to be instrumental here. Are happy as well. Looking to get a say in the fight, found from the off angle, and that's what happens. You get pushed by 2, and that is bad news all round. Zombie taking a low shore on the spray down towards the outside, but the rest of the team staying nice and healthy.
I think for XTEAM, you could definitely say that they're so low in the lobby in terms of elimination count, in terms of placement count, but you can never say this is a cowardly team that hasn't tried their damnedest to get up the lobby, because they're never afraid to take these fights, take these engagements, and I can respect that from them.
They take a knockback over towards Death Machine as well. on the long range. Losing Nightmare in the process, though. Really unfortunate. The circle does shift up north, so they've got a little bit more time to play out this engagement. Beg for Mercy sits out in the open, and baits effect out to peek from MADBULLS, who are entering this fight. This is a third party from the Paradise Resort position.
Are happy, likely to bleed out now. Effect will pick up that elimination for his troubles, moving down across this way. There are two teams here that I would like to talk about, because I think that both of them should be instrumental within this circle, and that is Game Lord and Unicorns of Love. It has been a while since we've seen a Northern Circle like this, and a lot of times Game Lord trying to take a very, very central position early on if they have to move south, and Unicorns of Love taking the separate approach, which is to try and sneak in on either a Western rotation or a heavy East rotation. And I think for both these teams now, they're not in a lot of danger, and they get to stick around in their drop spots for much longer. For Unicorns of Love, this really does assist them greatly. A lot of times we see them go down early and or not have the presence in those later circles. It's purely because they don't have the manpower.
Team Doom, Shockwave, close by 3 players from Team Doom on the top of this hill, but Shockwave are at full force here in this engagement, and they're going to show it. Actually, all 4 from Team Doom are up there, but 2 of them are down, so it's not going to matter either way. Zero and Frosty trying to roll back down the hill, away from the danger. A nade over towards Trazen, finds one to slow things down, but Frosty's low, gets knocked out by Azza. And now Frosty leaves his teammate Zero alone, but he's got a DBS, and he's got the heart to try and make something happen around the side. Looks for another knock, and Hakoni falls. Teammates getting flushed, and now it's a 1 versus 1. Zero trying to stand up and doing a darn good job here for Team Doom. Around the side of the rock, his teammate gets flushed, gets the heal off, and gets the shot in. What is Zero made of? Honestly, standing up against the 4 from Shockwave. What a beautiful DBS shutdown.
Yeah, 20% HP as well, still going for those knocks with the DBS, realizes that it doesn't really matter if I'm at 20% HP, as long as I can play around these smokes, I'm more than likely to get the insta-give with the DBS, so very well done. Now, Valor moves up very early on here, and this nade could spell absolute death for him, and it will be Athis sending that through the window. Victor similarly on hugely low HP, and now it's Akashi, as well as Robs, having to come in and try and assist here. Another lovely nade over the top.
Athis is doing work with these nades. Puts a nade in through the building. Victor can peek out to the left here. The reses are going through on the other side of the building. Look at Athis repositioning. Knows his feet can be swept from the building on the left. Spotted Robs. DBS around the side. Needs to be careful on this spray. Akashi wants the challenge, and there's a DBS on the inside as they hop in. Game Lord winning out the start of this fight. Now it's just Bazzy left for the Eastern Stars on the bridge crossing. And Game Lord are holding well for now. Bazzy spotted, taken down. Game Lord move perfectly.
And there it is. I mean, I hate to say it, but there's Rob once again, just absolutely decimating the competition. Lovely stuff. And he just loves the DBS on Sanhok, man. And, you know, I think that we've seen a lot of teams try and incorporate that weapon. We see just then, I think it was Zero from Team doing some great work with the DBS, but really Robs is the one who is kind of the DBS king at the moment. Just looks so slick with it, jumps through windows, lets his team get off angles, and they don't have to peek all that often because it's just that one shot from Robs, which will put it down. Now VP, this was slightly awkward for them. If they could get involved in that third party there between Game Lord as well as Eastern Stars, potentially they can get the head start on this engagement. Luckily, because they weren't looking their way, VP can sneak across over the water. Game Lord might need to be a little bit aware of this one. They know that Big's not in the game, so he should assume a team took up position towards Camp Alpha, but I don't know how much they'll be expecting this rotation because this is not typical big plays.
TJB are back up to their old trick, Blanks. Look at that. They are all the way down on the south side here. Potential for them to just look for a heal-off strat straight from the start. The last player from ARB is there as well. Hamo try. Oh, there's actually 2 players from ARB. Were they actually sending forwards? Check this out from Narvalo. You said Robs was the DBS king, but to start things off, it was Narvalo just unloading the shells on the players from Eastern Stars trying to make that cross.
Yeah, it's a good start from them. Game Lord needs to start thinking about moving across now. Unicorns of Love, again, this now becomes a really good game for them, but Pioneer able to rotate up through boot camp along the bank side. They've managed to get themselves into a decent position here. Doesn't have a lot of oversight from this spot, though. Pioneer, they find out directly hand to hand as Game Lord just sent it directly in. This is Game Lord being aggressive.
Strafe on the angle. Akashi low will go down to the spray. Nearly doesn't make it happen. Fesh taken all the way low, but that knock on the outside, that's going to be a flush. There's no way to pick that one back up. And with Robs getting knocked, Game Lord will be losing quite a lot of steam here on their eastward movement. Pioneer, I mean, it's one of the worst teams to come up against, to come across in those rotations, and we're now down to 3 as they do get Robs back up.
Yeah, they really did just try and crash that one. It was a dry push as well, so nothing else to support it. I mean, Akashi might have been able to crack that one clean open if he was able to get the knock over towards Fash, but he was already damaged. But in another world, another light, if he has that HP to play around with, you know, Fash may have gone down and it would have given the opportunity for the rest of the guys to actually move in nice and hot there. Unfortunate, it doesn't play out that way. Again, Game Lord can just send away, though, to a different compound. They are now 3, which is slightly unfortunate for themselves. You see MADBULLS off in the distance, moved up from Paradise Resort. And they're just going to hang around there for the time being.
MADBULLS have been poking out, though. I mean, we saw them scout out the fight on the southeast side. They've had a look over towards Pioneer as well. So they have got a lot of information around the surroundings. Likely that they'll choose a direction after the next zone does shut, but they've got a little bit of time to play with. VP swinging all the way around to Cow. TJB just about making the circle near Camp Bravo.
Again, I think they're looking to heal this one out, though, so maybe they move in, maybe they don't. We just don't know as of yet. Wadea does go down to a nade through the window. That's from QODEX. This is all the way down on the southwest side. They're not in the circle yet, but will soon to be. But Na'Vi's holding out that rotation. They're a little bit speedy on their rotate. They know that teams are starting to get wise on their positions, and this does give them a little bit of extra. Sorry, that's Nexus on that side coming up from Painan, who are again speedy coming up towards this side. So this is nice for them. We're able to hold out this for a little bit longer. VP though, that long rotate in the water, John, I think that might catch a few teams off guard a little bit with their a little bit unaware of this position, especially because it goes all the way from Hartin round to Cow. Now they control a lot of the northern side of the circle. And we have seen some ping-pong shifts coming through on the map, and if this heads up towards the northern side, VP have a really good shout into this.
Got a lot of lateral eastward ground as well, but there is a shift, and it does go a little bit north there, Blank. So it does tickle the pink team.
Yeah, and for the rotation for VP, I mean, they could send it towards those compounds on the eastern roads. You can see Hamodi's holding in there, but it's practically just him all in his lonesome. And I think for Hamodi, it might be wise to even just send out towards the north, because there will be teams coming his way trying to take up those compounds, which are quite decent to mess around with. You could even have 2 separate teams holding in that same spot.
TJB, they've moved all the way north now, and they're very close to Ruthless Esports, who, by the looks of it, want to just fall back and regroup, because they have set up a 2-2 split right now. TJB, they're making a lot of noise. You can see they're waiting for shots to ring out towards them. Maybe they're worried about players in here, and rightly so. There are 2 of them to be worried about. Ruthless looking for the spray now. Pocus finally steps out. Doesn't quite get the first knock onto Zittel. In the meantime, Game Lord still going with the DBS, by the way, on their 3-player squad. But Ruthless find the first knock. Salazar is close by, backed off the corner, wants to put a nade through this window, and it will finish the job there if they're able to place it right. Fades it away. Zittel crawls away from it as well in the meantime. TJB looking to push in, but I doubt they get their teammate back up here.
This was very astute from Game Lord to instantly send up towards Cow as VP makes their way in. Great nade to start that off from Narvalo, finishes the player off with the DBS, and then Robs is able to instantly follow up of his own DBS and take down another player from that team. So now down just to Mir as well as Old Boy. And I think for Game Lord, they could really create a lot of space themselves on this north side if they can continue to clear out the rest of VP, but they're sending out towards the east side. They want to get a little bit more safe. Their rotation has been spotted, and it was a good one at that.
And look at that, Narvalo just popping those shots. A nice nade as well down there from Robs. It seems like nade usage is really standing tall. Unicorns love double prediction from Maxman and Kylaris. MADBULLS central fairly from Jason.
I think the Unicorns of Love prediction is pretty shoot. I would agree with that. I mean, with this northern circle, they're able to dig the feet in. And this way they can actually start to show us a little bit of that presence that they've shown before in terms of team fighting without losing a player early on. I am curious to see what their roster currently looks like, because I know they have been subbing Reznov in, our resident UK player, single UK player in the lobby.
I think he is playing in this game. Unicorns of Love are on 4. Now holding the compound out on the western side of the circle. MADBULLS sweep out around to the east. The circle shifts heavy down southeast and towards the MADBULLS.
Yeah, and they can quite easily take this compound that 4 Romanian men are currently sat in. You can see just barely on your screen on that north side, there's a little bit of grey underneath 4 Romanian men, and that is actually just a little bit of a ridge face where you can get underneath. It is quite awkward if 4 Romanian men have the Molotovs and the nades to play around with. This is a position they can quite easily clear, but mainly open ground. The north side, trickier to rotate through with the road in your path, but Pioneer, Unicorns of Love dangerously close to one another. Unicorns of Love still hold a nice compound, so we'll be able to spot players as they come through from relative safety.
There's an off angle from QODEX as well. Woodson down and to the right here on this engagement. You can see the 2 off angle players, Skills and Woodson, trying to play around and get some advantage. PNL goes down. QODEX are hampered once more. Should spot the player crawling near the trees. Eric can't quite find those shots, and Skills is repositioned. Vito spots that movement. And the spray down on the hill is good. Maniken moving on through. This is the guy that we've always said has been the star of the show for QODEX. Skills tries to reposition around the rock, but can't quite find what he's looking for.
A bit rough there. Izumitsu, though, going big mode with the DBS towards Unicorns of Love.
Spray down for Skills over onto Vito, but it's traded off, and QODEX hold up in the fight. Woodson staying alive for the moment. 2 players now for QODEX. All 4 of MADBULLS are still going. Monkey low, and that nade looks good. Will find the first knock. The point guard there. And the circle being down this way means they need to finish this fight. They need to conclude it as fast as they can. Skills is down as well in the meantime. Effect and Zarek, both of whom need to stand up for the team now. Effect, such a heavy presence in this lobby as well.
Yeah, this guy tends to deadlift the lobby quite frequently, but that's 2 players going down almost immediately to Maniken.
Woodson now the last player standing for QODEX. Hang on a minute, he's got Vito back up as well. There's a flush going through over to Zarek, and the MADBULLS go down in the blink of an eye. Southeast side now being taken over by QODEX, trying to control that area. The Unicorns are down as well, and the predictions are all shot. Game Lord trying to move in from the northwestern side, but QODEX can try and hold on here as Pioneer with 4 moving across the ground as well.
Yeah, VP getting ahead was a massive shame there for Game Lord. Rana on the floor, but Ulysses spots it out easy peasy for them. 3 players on Ruthless, 5 eliminations. Narvalo continues with his heel strap, but Pioneer, 10 eliminations. This is exactly what I wanted to see towards the beginning of the day here for Pioneer. Actually able to stretch out and get some big plays on this map where they've not been able to find them despite some good positioning they have shown us before.
QODEX at the moment bunched up, southeast side. Nades over the top towards VP as the teams on the north looking to shimmy their way in. Old Boy much closer to the circle. Mate is going to really struggle here, really suffer. 3 first aids for Old Boy. The nade into the smoke could be good if he's got the right cook on it. Puts it in, puts it amongst the pigeons and gets 2. Salazar now down the hill for Ruthless Esports. What a nade on the north side for Old Boy. He is absolutely trucking now, controlling this ground. And the bleed out will happen. Salazar looking to heal.
Mir goes down left to Old Boy all on his lonesome. Ruthless Esports down to just 1, trying to heal. Narvalo in a similar situation. Not sure how much longer he'll be going for out inside the blue, but still, either way, good stuff. Old Boy, very low here, will finish off Manu, but maybe giving his position away. You see Narvalo off in the distance. Pioneer, though, they control this circle, and it's up to QODEX. 6 eliminations, 3 players to try and battle them away. They have the circle to play around with, and Pioneer will have to push in.
Ruthless still have that healer going in Salazar. I think Old Boy knows about it. He knows that he knocked those 2 players and there's someone left behind. So in theory, he should be aware that in that location, there is a player trying to heal. But Pioneer on the western edge, looking to move up the hill. QODEX want to stop that.
MADBULLS gets closer. We'll try and pick up at least one more. Gets Fash, and that's down to 3 now. This opened things up massively for QODEX. And they'll pick up another elimination for the Troubles. Black White also falls, and Pioneer stopped the hurdle by a healer behind.
Oh boy, still at the top of the hill, by the way. Hasn't got that many first aids. Will need to move forwards. Has 3 to play with. They find another player, and it's just Izumitsu for Pioneer on the outside. Vito spotted, but not knocked. And now that should be it. They should be able to shut this one down. Oh boy, healing on out. Will outlast it. Get himself up into second place. Moves through the blue, but will go down. And second place claimed by Salazar from Ruthless Esports. Despite his teammates getting knocked, he still has 9 first aids to go. Probably can make this ridgeline in the 9 first aids that he has, but QODEX is probably going to be able to shut this one down with 3.
Yeah, almost impossible for him to get back into the circle. Either way, some good performances from a lot of teams here. Pioneer completely shut down by Game Lord, who were able to find that knock on the backside, which just opened into a whole boatload more of eliminations coming through their way. And QODEX, once again, looking extremely strong.
5 first aids. I don't know if he has the time. I mean, it is still it is shrinking away from him again. So with 5 there and only the 4 first aids, I don't think it's possible. MONEYKEN stunning on him. Needs to be careful though. If the ridgeline gets crested, could absolutely be shut down there. Salazar backs off. Here's the footsteps and thinks better of it. He knows with that many footsteps, it's just a matter of waiting to try and out heal. So in case there's another team in the zone. You will
I know they could just play this one out. This is easy pickings for them.
Pan up. Salazar. No. Falls back. And out he goes. QODEX take the chicken dinner on Sanhok with a controlling game on the southeast and winning out the fight as well against MADBULLS.
It's a big win as well for QODEX, and another, technically, back-to-back coming through from QODEX here. From yesterday, they won out on Miramar. Now they win at the beginning of the day on Sanhok once again. We highlighted them right at the day in the pre-show as well, John, being this team that's now looking much more as a heavy unit. MONEYKEN, again, though, doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the team. He looks incredibly good right now, but with the rest of this team starting to back him up with a lot more firepower, they are looking very strong. Pioneer, though, I hope that they don't take this as a bad game for themselves. I do think it was very, very good overall. And I think that looking at them, there is one change they could maybe make on Sanhok, which is to be as a sweeping team, John. When they take those compounds and just sit there for too long, we have seen a lot of times them just lose that position. They have to leave. With this, where they were just playing as a 4-man unit, just basically rocking players as they walked through the circle, they looked a lot better. It's unfortunate that now Valo, with 721 damage done overall, was able to kind of cause a huge problem for them at the end there with the backstab. Either way, great stuff from Pioneer, but even better stuff coming through from QODEX.
QODEX with the technical back-to-back chicken dinner here on Sanhok.
Hey, technical still counts. Back-to-back here for QODEX. Fantastic finish for them. But also, they didn't make it easy for themselves because they went through quite a few different strong teams. I mean, for instance, MADBULLS was one of the teams they had to fight their way through, and they won the battle against them, which is no easy feat for really any team in these lobbies that we've been seeing here. But 25 points is the result here for QODEX.
Yeah, massive on QODEX. The back-to-back win here coming in through for this third phase. And really, when it comes to that fight versus MADBULLS, not an easy fight. MADBULLS had some elevations, they had some rocks, some trees to really scout from with that third-person perspective. So very, very hard to actually push that location. But QODEX came through with some fantastic nades. I believe they cleared 2 players instantly. Boom, you have a 4v2, go for the push, clear that position. Then, of course, you're lucky because a circle comes your way, but you fought for that position in the first place. And MADBULLS, I mean, we know Kalash, not an easy team to take down, and they come out with like only 1 casualty, so that's a massive win for them.
Yeah, I can't decide what I'm more impressed by. The victory over MADBULLS as they're pushing up against them in an advantageous situation, or their transition to these circles. When Circle 4 pops, They're far south, and they somehow thread the needle, rotating far east to be able to get in above 4 and Romanian men, XTEAM, Doom, and then eventually collide into MADBULLS. But the fact that they make this, and MONEYKEN is very clearly the scout in all of this, he was ahead of the pack leading them to this spot, makes for an excellent rotation on Sanhok. And it's rare I'm going to say this because Sanhok rotations are beastly sometimes. They are. I'll say it, they're gash. It's really difficult to make this happen on Sanhok, but they somehow did. So very impressive.
I liked it because they drop in ruins, then they go to trifecta, so they're just keeping the options open. Boom, the circle actually goes to the mainland over on the east, so they can just transition. And their scouting, actually talking about their scouting, they went to Bootcamp Hill on the northeast of Bootcamp, right? And they spotted, I believe it was NEXUS that they spotted right northeast of their own location. And also, as you know, Paradise Resort, the terrain around it is a little bit weird. Don't really like moving into it too much, especially if a team is there. So they're just thinking the circle shifting to the east. That means a lot of teams are going to be west, southwest. Let's just go for the wide wrap, enter towards like Camp Bravo, Mongnai position, and we're going to avoid bad terrain and potentially a lot of teams. So that IQ call was actually really high.
Yeah, that's a very good point that you bring up. The fact that there are so many barrier teams there after the circle is shifting, you would naturally assume that there is going to be more teams in that area. So it's a good point that Max brings up, and very well deduced.
Well, normally MONEYKEN was the player we would... Oh, I just give you a compliment, Max? That was weird.
Say something bad about me. Come on, I don't like this.
I like fall colors, but obviously we talk about MONEYKEN quite a bit when it comes to QODEX. Let's take a look though at their player stats. We saw Woodson did have the most eliminations, but curious to see as well what other players had high damage, because obviously you can't get the elims that easily unless you get some good damage done here. And we will see MONEYKEN leading the charge here at 635. And funny enough, you know, Vito was typically, if I'm not mistaken, the second player we would look to when it comes to QODEX, but nice to see Woodson here chime in.
Yeah, I mean, MONEYKEN, literally with the damage he received, he survives on 1 HP, Jason. that was a real close one for MONEYKEN. But yeah, it's good to see that we're seeing Woodson, especially. I think Woodson actually didn't talk too much about him, but Vito had to step up. MONEYKEN has, typically always been the one doing better for the team. But Woodson has been, I think, someone that hasn't been talked about too much, but has had some decent improvements in the past few weeks. So yeah, definitely some respect is overdue for Woodson because he's definitely been putting some good foot forward.
You know, Kalaris, we were talking about how MONEYKEN, scouting for the team here, but for him to have like the least damage taken and the most damage done, I find that interesting for a scout.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, and this is why I'm so impressed that they were able to thread the needle in the way that they did. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination to be able to weave through these teams, get to a spot. You then saw him, once he actually found that spot on the east side, laying down next to a rock, scouting things out once again, waiting for his team to catch up with him. And especially the low damage received and healing done here, considering that they're going up against MADBULLS, then they eventually dispatch Pioneer very, very strongly in these final engagements. This was a very surgical game coming out from QODEX.
Okay, well, let's see actually the total damage, see how they rank up against everyone else in the lobby. I would assume they should have the lead when it comes to damage, but we're going to check here. It's actually going to be Pioneer here in first place at 1,853 with the 11 limbs. Honestly, a pretty high limb game actually out of these three teams. I mean, all double digits. That's 31 across the table out of our 64-player lobby. That's quite crazy, Max.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. And actually for GameLord too, I was happy with how they were able to actually win some fights versus some very big hitter teams. They won a fight versus VP, I believe, just using one player inside Cal. So that was a really good fight they took. Then they kind of third-party positions on what I think it was Pioneer. There was also the team of Unicorns of Love. So GameLord willing to be a little bit more aggressive. I do like that. And I think we do also remember that in the previous season, GameLord is a team that plays no Tatmark. They play this overall position, so they're very familiar with this terrain and how to also have a little bit of an advantage against other teams. So yeah, good from GameLord. I still want to see that potentially transformed into a win later on down the line, but they still got that punch, which is good to see.
And it's kind of a shame for them too, because they're going to be sitting out the next match as Group D won't be playing here when we get over to Erangel. However, we will have Group E coming in, so we get to see the likes of Navi, who have been on somewhat of a hot streak as well yesterday. We get to see Big come in, MUERTE, Tag as well. This is a very, very dominant, very strong group actually after we finally get to see this first day of play happen. But we're going to be going to Erangel next, so I'm curious to see, Big I think we're still not a fan of a Severny drop for them, if I'm not mistaken. But they made it work yesterday.
I mean, I'm never really the biggest fan of a Severny drop unless you've got a good backup plan for, say, for example, a south plane path, or then eventually a south plane path into a south circle, right? But still, I think that there are ways in which you can flex out from a Severny drop that kind of will aid you and benefit you, and we've seen Big mix in little bits of this, be it looting some of the compounds north of the river whilst also sending 3 or 2 up towards Severny, just having a little bit of an anchor point towards kind of more the middle of the map compared to anything else, and that can lend you well, because generally people don't use this as their main drop spot. The closest drop spot that you're going to be considering as a main drop spot to you will be, in that case then, Rozhok, which is kind of far away in itself anyway.
Max, do you think there's any potential for a fight at George with Na'Vi and Pioneer? Because we did see Pioneer drop towards North George and a little bit of South George when Na'Vi wasn't playing yesterday. Do you think there's potential for conflict?
I mean, there's always potential for conflict in that position, but I would say you can avoid it, right? George Paul, you got such a wide amount of terrain in that position. If you can just dodge it, I think that most teams have been trying to avoid it for most of the time. You got like apartment position, Northern George Pole, and also crates. So you can easily house 2, if not 3 teams. I think that potentially talking about them, they could maybe also try and get a piece of George Pole later on if they want to get a little bit closer, if the plane path is a little bit too southern. But yeah, I think if you drop in George Pole, very similar to Yasnai Polyana, sure, you're in the same city, but there's no reason to really take the fight. It's just a risk that's unnecessary. So I would just dodge it if possible.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like we don't really see Na'Vi or Pioneer get in early skirmishes that often. I feel like they're a team that's more focused on getting to the late stage, playing out that position, where if we go over to Miramar, we know what we're going to get over in Picado.
I still don't want to see it in Picado, but I mean, they're still doing I want to see a change of pace in Picado in particular. Yeah, it's not now, but yeah, it doesn't serve any purpose. Stop.
And I know, I will say, in terms of the potential for an early fight, I would say more so Pioneer than even Na'Vi. Why would you do it, considering the absolute power and consistency that we're seeing from them getting into the late game and being able to almost, if not sometimes, round out the game? I mean, they are looking so good right now with that consistency. I would say even more so than Na'Vi, which is a crazy thought to come into this tournament with. If you'd have said to me in phase 1 that Pioneer would be more consistent over the 3 phases so far than Na'Vi, I would have called you a liar, but here we are.
Yeah, and the thing with Pioneer is they've kind of looked good and been kind of under the radar. We said this yesterday when it getting to the late stages of the game, but they're finally a team that seems like they can close out matches, which is such a big step up for Black and White and his team. But curious to see if they'll be able to maybe have a good performance here, as we'll be going over to Erangel in just a few seconds. So we're going to throw it over to our commentators to kick off our second match of the day with John Allen and Blake.
Well, I've just got a marching band going past me at the moment, so hopefully that doesn't that's not too intrusive on my microphone. But we're getting into the first Erangel of the day after the Sanhok, the QODEX were able to sweep out.
I can't hear your marching band, so it's fine. That's absolutely okay. Although I would have liked to have heard your marching band, because it would have been a great intro here to Erangel as we head in. Hopefully it's not too distracting for you, mate. That's all I'm worried about, really. Is you keep the tabs on them, mate. Keep tabs on them. That's fine. That's fine. But yeah, heading over to Erangel, like the boys said, we're getting some of our other teams coming in now. Na'Vi, Big. Hopefully they can get something done here for Big. I'm on a similar trajectory right now to Kalaris, which is I have high hopes for Big, but again, you cannot ignore the previous 2 phases from this team. They do seem like they've got a lot of confidence coming back on board. Beast is looking a lot more beastly, and realistically though, is it possible to keep up this pace? I don't know. Let's see.
I bet you could hear it now. It's going pretty loud past my window. But either way,
I can't hear anything.
It's very festive. Why not celebrate day 2 of phase 3, right? It's a great day to be watching PUBG Mobile. The plane path goes from Stauber down to Primorsk, Blank.
Yeah, we are now obviously a third way through phase 3. We have next week to contend with as of yet. Game Lord, Unicorns of Love, Death Machine, ARB not in this match together for this one, so we will see the Death Machine ARB cage match over on Miramar possibly. But Unicorns Love, Game Lord not being this one. Nova Noya open, Yasnaya also open here, so teams might be able to take up residence in those positions if they would like to. Novo, a little bit of a specialized position for teams in particular. I don't think we'll see many teams take this position. If there's already Sosnovka teams down there, then I assume they might take up Nova just for some extra looting capability before moving up towards Milta and Farm on the rotate. I think it's Yasnaya, which is going to be the big one that people will be contending for.
Four Romanian men in Kumeshki there, dropping out early with a player up the top. Severny, talking about that, drop Navi in the North George spot. Everybody else spreading out. The Western Bridge potential to get a little bit messy as the circle pops.
Towards the center side, and again, as the predictions come through, I didn't think anyone would head down towards Sosnovka. We're not seeing it as of yet. QODEX heading towards the top side, just the west side of Farm there. Maybe picking up some of the trash compounds on that side, quickly looting up and then get gone. Move up to where they need to go. But this is slightly undecided in terms of a circle. Could still head down towards Sosnovka if we do get a hard shift down that way. But you still have a lot of Gatka in the fielded area on that side and a lot more of the compounds. And I would say open area towards the east. So two separate type of play styles that both these circles encapsulate, and we'll have to see, you know, what are those play styles going into the late game, and how will these teams decide where they want to play and why they want to play there. Striker desperately trying to get at the vehicle on the top side, driving off. I mean, I don't know how useful this is. I would have to ask a couple of players. I mean, I think it gives you slightly better angles to take some shots off of, but yeah, interesting.
I think it's on the two-seater, right? So they're just trying to get all four of them rotating and find another vehicle that they can...
Left arm man behind, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. There's a buggy there that they can stop off at, regroup, go back and pick up the teammate, get on the road again.
Yeah, I didn't quite spot they were in the two-seater there, so that does make a lot of sense. Get the buggy, and now MUERTE can get moving. As we do head in, as I said, a third way into phase 3, we are now going to start solidifying those positions going in towards the finals, and we can start looking outwards towards the regional championships. But first, we have to crown our victor here over in the PMPL. Obviously, those PMGC spots are still on the line, in which case we'll take a look at them maybe a little bit later on in the game whilst I pull it up. But yeah, an interesting start here. And again, looking at these rankings, obviously looking down towards 16th place, Death Machine currently still on the bubble for that one, with ARB champions not too far behind them. And this is where this Picardo drops becomes a little bit more saucy, right? Now it really does become whoever can win that Miramar is vying for that position in 16th place. So 316 to 285, it is a slight jump there. Team Doom with 259, slightly less capable to get up towards that 316 unless they have a killer next 4 days.
Yeah, it would be very, very difficult to make that work, right? As you say. So the time is running out, and ARB probably with the better chance of it. But we see ARB fight early fairly frequently. I mean, more than probably their fair share of these engagements. I see ARB flash up on the screen. Fortunately for them, not this time around, because ARB will not be playing this game. They have been left out of it. You can't get in a fight if you're not in the game.
I mean, most of the time they're the Sosnovka Millie team, right? So again, no one down there right now does make it slightly interesting in terms of if we do get that hard southern shift, though. Again, it could go anywhere, and there is technically like that 25% chance that we head down that way, which I personally would love to see because it would make this game extremely interesting. Taking a quick look at some of these positions around the map. Nexus, again, this is very typical for them over in Gatka. MADBULLS down towards Primos this time, looking to maybe play from that area of the map. They will have to move through perhaps Doom, RUTHLESS eSports being another team there. FaZe, 3 stats there for Pioneer. 1 average elimination, 152 damage, but a 22-minute survival time for them. So curious right now. Again, not a lot of data to go off there in terms of Erangel being only 1 map so far that we have seen of it, but 2 today. Perhaps Pioneer can bring those numbers up just a bit.
Would be good for them, but they're going to be fairly safe to get into these finals kind of any stretch of the imagination at this stage, Blank. So more points, sure, it's good, but they have got a nice chunk of bonus points already. They're likely to be getting a whole load more from this phase and from the overalls as well. In general, for the final, they're setting themselves up quite nicely. As much as these bonus points do matter, and the difference from the top of the tables to the bottom of the tables is set to be, you know, around 50 to 60 points, it's kind of unlikely that those sort of differences in points, if you go up or down even 1 to 2, 3 places even, that it has that much of an impact, because that only really impacts about 2 or 3 points overall in the long run for the finals.
John, don't do this to me, man.
What do you want?
Don't come up with that kind of information when you've casted PUBG Mobile this long. How many times, on average, do you think you have seen number 1 and number 2 spots in position in finals differentiated by 3 to 4 points? I personally have seen that many, many times. So these points, although minimal, can really be the game changer when it comes to the finals.
I mean, potentially. They have potential to put it in, but it kind of doesn't have as much bearing as it sometimes could. I mean, the differences can come down to it, and TJB, they want to get as many points on board as possible, taking on PNL, picking up the flush. Easy peasy for them. Around the side, MADBULLS does have the angle onto GK first, but he slips back into the ground floor.
Yeah, not able to find that pick off there. Let's go even further back in time, though, John. I'm going to keep trying to convince you here, because let's head back to PMGC time ago, right? Where it was, I believe, Loops Esports and RRQ. RRQ picks up 3 points, and I think it bumped them up by like 10 grand.
That's true. These things can have a boundary in terms of the upper middle placements. So I guess that's where it's going to have the most impact, right? These small differences in bonus points. If you're a team that's placing in those upper middle positions, so sort of 3rd through 9th is where I sort of classify that as, you're going to be, I guess, more grateful for all the points you can get from these bonus points. But if you're a team that's competing for the top spot, a team like Pioneer, I think that those points are less likely to come in super crucially.
Yeah, maybe. I think perhaps have a point there, Mr. John. Mr. John Allen. But we'll,
Mr. Allen John, that's right.
Mr. Allen John, that's right.
Mr. John Allen.
But let's go back in time once again.
How far back?
PUBG Mobile Spring 2022 for Western Europe. Giants Gaming, 191 points. TJB, 194 in first.
Ooh. I'm not saying it can't happen. I think it's less likely to, all right? Okay. You pulled out one example out of how many final results in the pro leagues? Quite a few, right? So if we're looking at maybe a 1 in 15 times that it happens, you take those odds. You take a 1 in 15 chance.
Yeah, okay. I understand that, for sure. Looking at the map, though, it does head over towards that eastern side. Team Doom. Down towards the south. MUERTE did head towards Milta way. So not too bad for them. Happy days. They can start to move out towards that western side, but a lot of teams taking up presence around Potato Hill at the moment. Na'Vi making their shift down towards from North George. They slip past Hospital. I think Pioneer will be slightly ahead of them in the queue there.
So a replay on the crash. It really was a crash from GK first onto PNL's position. QODEX leaving their outpost a little bit vulnerable there, and they pay the price, as we saw earlier. There's the bolt action. Sights trained, but not finding the scope.
But let's go back in time one more time here, John.
How far are we going back?
So this is PMPL Indonesia. Spring split.
Huh?
EVOS, 212 points in the finals.
Okay.
Ion Esports, 214.
Okay.
Do we need to go
okay. Let's if you're going to be specifically picking the ones where it did happen, then sure, we can keep going. But
choose a random one.
If you give me 10 minutes, if you give me 10 minutes, I'll get you a list of all the ones where it was a point barrier of at least 10 points.
All right, let's just do a random one. Let's do.
I don't think you're going to find it too often. I really don't.
Third place,
looking at
T2K. Second place, Dead Eyes guys, 215, 212.
What was the second place? The third place?
212.
215, 212. Yeah, that's quite close. You're right.
Anyway, back
how
to the
many
game.
games?
Back to the game. Back to it. That was in the finals. All those are from the finals. Tixi going down. Goodness me, Ruthless Esports taking them down, but Na'Vi quickly come back into the fold. But this is a bad start for Na'Vi. Either way, Matic's just flying past.
He's out of there. He's trying to reposition behind the ridgeline. Maybe gets a wheel popped. And Matic is out. RV, though, losing a lot of steam in their first entry for today's games, going down to Ruthless there. RV, it's not good news for their fight against Big in the top spots there. VIRTUS.PRO as well. Going to be pleased that Na'Vi gets harried so early, so hard as well. So they move past Big, taking a fight with 4 Romanian men. They're racking up points. VP could even spot the last player of Na'Vi.
Yeah, dangerously close rotating through. I think Matic just had to send away. Think about nothing but getting out from that engagement between them. So that was tough. That's rough for Na'Vi starting off, especially on Erangel where you can get those consistent points. And they had a good shout into it. I do think that perhaps sending right underneath Pachinki, you maybe should have expected Ruthless Esports to be here. Took the fight fairly well, but did just leave almost immediately. Ulysses will pick up that final player there. And if they had won that fight, if you see the circle there shifting all the way over towards the west, they would have had an extremely good position within the circle too. Now Ruthless can maybe try and translate this into a good victory for themselves. I think for Ruthless, down to 3 players, maybe a little bit more difficult, but it is sad for me looking at this team at the moment, considering, you know, phase 1, 16th place, 125 points. They come into phase 2, they look so much better, fall off on the second week, but end up with 234. It looks really, really good for themselves, but early on in the tournament of phase 3, they were very far down to bottom. I think they were 19th place after that last game, have sent themselves up into a 14th with 25 points, but not necessarily where they'd like to end up.
Not ideal, we'll put it that way. Still some time to play with though, still opportunity to rack up those points, put them back in the pocket. Shift out west, Matic still in. Eastern Stars have to move in, so do Big.
Team Dune spotted on the high ground. So they're down towards that south side. They've held this side for a long, long time. I think MUERTE's kind of held out the most here, John, unfortunately. Down towards the south side of Farm. They're going to have to move through a whole massive roadblock of teams on this western side. Matic has made his way all the way across on that eastern edge. He'll hold there for as long as it takes. And I think for Na'Vi, those consistent points typically are able to come through, but it's a little bit easier for Matic when he has a duo to play off of. Fortunately, here being solo will mean some real caution required.
MUERTE rolling on up to take aim gaming's position. MUERTE having a great phase 2, but started off yesterday a little bit slower than they might have liked. Looking for a chance to make their mark here now as they open up with 1 and 2 as well onto 2 separate players from Take Aim Gaming, trying to swing down and take the compound from underneath and actually crush them between them and TJB, forcing them into this engagement. Toffees on the broadsides found by Striker. Mind last standing now for Take Aim Gaming, and the nades start to pour on through. Puts one around to the right, or is cooking it out. Looks to put it behind the first cover, but Mind repositions. Dadayev looks to go in around the back, but Mind flees out the back to the next warehouse. That position will be known, they'll know about it. The buggy to bug on out of there.
Would not be surprised to see mine just go down now to shots coming through from Team Doom. Does reposition, and that is the shots I was talking about. Very difficult to get out of there. That's who's been holding them in that spot for the longest time. Now MUERTE have to go even further beyond. TJB try and rotate over on the north side of MUERTE. I like that play from MUERTE though. Confidence in themselves to actually be able to take that engagement and get away with it with 4 players still in tow. So really, really well done. MADBULLS though on this next circle, which shifts heavy down towards the southwest side, have massive control. 4 Romanian men get taken out of the vehicle, but Lin gets past easy enough.
There's a lot of potential for solos. Oh, look at that. Coney lines up a blinder of a shot there. He will pin that one through the window. There's a lot of potential for solos here to be able to crash down the cliffs, hide out, get into the water. TJB moving away from their hold on MUERTE. Tulika does go down and get flushed against the crash.
Yeah, Zittel literally on life support there. Somehow survives. I think he must have been on literally 1 HP at the end of that engagement between him and Tulika.
It was 1 shot.
Yeah. 1 tap away. GK first lies down inside the smoke. VP actually did a great job getting into this position, but TJB being able to pass by so many teams there has got some big issues. Zittel does go down to an explosion on the vehicle as Old Boy tosses some grenades over the top. Another one goes through, see if he can find any more. Now Dariev gets inside the smoke and MUERTE is trying to pick up this position and backfill.
Ooh, showers there. Will get spotted, sprayed down. MUERTE, they are going to be pretty successful on this push. They do lose English, and Team Doom want to have a go at it now. Seems like everybody wants to crunch in on this cliff face. And why not? There's good cover. It's a solid spot. You know there are going to be teams there now, but you're probably aware that that fight has been going on for a while, and they're likely a little bit weaker than you.
Yankee actually nades out Mia somehow with a bit of a hodgepodge grenade that goes over the top and maybe bounces down. So unfortunately, Mir obviously be down the cliff face as well. Unlikely they'll be able to bring him up, but Yankee has opted to step downwards. MADBULLS now moves towards his position. Everyone predicting this team to win here. They've had such a strong spot for a long time down towards the yellows. One of the only compounds within this circle other than the one that Eastern Stars currently hold. A lot of teams understand that this rocky crop down towards the south side is really one of the safest areas. MADBULLS continues with throwing more utility over that side. They have a fair few smokes to play around with, 2 or 6 in the pocket there of skills, which would be very, very useful for them going forward.
You know what? I'm gonna throw something into the mix. I think NEXUS have a really good shot here. I think they have a really good position to sweep down. If they can win the crash onto the Eastern Stars position, I feel like there's a lot of power that they can have, but MADBULLS not going to give up their control that easily on the south side. They've moved out to that ridgeline. They understand that playing in that compound is not necessarily the best way to control this circle right now.
I mean, for NEXUS, they have a long way to go, right? And they were down in the ditches, so getting up towards this compound and getting across the road is tough. And it's one of these positions that they will have to play it slow on this side and wait for this next circle to pop. But you are right, there is potential for them. I think for MADBULLS, the difficulty for themselves at the moment is trying to control more of the space. Skills down towards that south side still on the rocky outcrop, trying to hold all these players in. Shockwave. Find players from QODEX here. 2 players still going. This is outside the circle, and the circle heads up towards Eastern Stars compound. And NEXUS are going to look to try and still hold out over towards that northwest edge.
Ooh, the blue zone tags on towards Azer after I think there was a nade coming through. So didn't quite get the knock, but look at that. Another ping from across the way, and QODEX are released from their fight and thrust straight into another one.
Ruthless. Again, right on the edge, they spot Eastern Stars. This is the 2 compounds across the road from one another. NEXUS, again, this is what also makes it very difficult, John, is with there being so many sight lines available out towards their position once they crest this ridge. MADBULLS are taking it slow. They still have that insurgent of MADBULLS skills down towards that south side, waiting alongside with a lot of these other teams who are just expending smoke after smoke after smoke to keep themselves covered from any sight lines that might be available. And here's the crash now coming in.
NEXUS going straight on towards the Eastern Stars position. Both players moving up. Ruthless Esports want to take these shots. There's a Molotov to force Octavian in, but they make a good crossing. Doran the only casualty. EXO is there. Keme, ping, plinked away as well. Doran does get flushed out as the MADBULLS take an question into this fight, and they do fall down. I mean, you're right. That was maybe a little bit bold to predict them, a little bit overzealous, and they don't make that crash happen. Maybe if they'd have gone for it a little bit earlier before the MADBULLS have repositioned, they might have had a better chance, but you can't make that sort of call.
Yeah, even so, I think they do make the correct play, right, which is to head up on towards that top ridge, smoke off the side and get behind the walls, because you at least eliminate the sight lines of Ruthless Esports into this fight, and they can kind of take the 1v1 with them and Eastern Stars. This is a good play coming from Ruthless. They realize the Eastern Stars just come off the back of that fight. If they can get further into the circle and try and clean up house now whilst they're still recuperating members, this is a great time to cross. I really do respect this coming through from Ruthless Esports. Now this becomes a bit tricky for Eastern Stars as immediately Ruthless Esports send themselves into the Hornet's nest.
And MADBULLS, having seen that engagement, know that there's going to be a little bit of time on the north side. They fully reposition down to the southeast. They are punishing these teams, forcing them off the cliff side and moving away from this to gain control over a lot of the rest of this circle. They're going to allow these two teams to fight one another. And Blank, this is incredible strength being displayed by MADBULLS.
Yeah, this is immediately off the back of that. They've not had the most amount of eliminations in this game so far, but they, like you said, they realize that this is a great time to start cleaning house down towards that south side. They can sweep, get a lot of control, wait for this next circle, which does head up back towards the north side. So although they do get a lot of damage down towards all these teams on this side, they still have to move up towards the north, but at least they can be safe knowing that all this position towards the south side, they're not going to get backstabbed on their approach, which, as you can see, is incredibly open. That is just no man's land that they're going to have to cross. And I don't know how many vehicles they still have left in the pocket to make it happen, but if they can crash on this side of the Eastern Stars, they again at least eliminate that threat from Ruthless Esports, who won't be able to see through to that position. It's only Bazzi who's holding that as well. So this is a good opportunity for MADBULLS if they do make the push right this instant.
Looking to move forwards, it seems, though, to push towards the other teams on that coastline. Bazzi, now preoccupied with Ruthless, spots the muzzle flash from the window, lobs a nade on over, right into the window, posts that one away. Looking to get the res over onto Kapahala in the meantime to get them in fighting form. They are in this next circle, so they've got time. They have a little bit to play with. In fact, unfortunately gets spotted there by Team Doom, who are still a 4-player squad.
They really haven't had to move from this position at all, and they have just been gatekeeping this eastern side. Yeah, a lot of teams got ahead of them, but they were more preoccupied, let's say, with survival and keeping themselves up as 4 in towards these last circles. This rock does give you a huge amount of cover compared to everywhere else. Skills sent in, but it is Team Doom who also gets in on this one. Skills can't quite make it happen.
Can't double it up just yet. MADBULLS now down to just the one. As the player from the top line, Zarek, will have to stand up and actually clears out the south coast now. If he can make it across, if he can get to the team, he can get these reses. Look at the health bars as well. Monkey has time.
I mean, with the circle coming in, though,
oh, yeah,
it's really unlikely that Zerish is able to pick any of these players up. They essentially have to crawl into it themselves, and Zerish just has to play on the side. It will be an incredible feat if he's able to get any of these players back up in action. I wonder if he can kind of push them with the vehicle, maybe. You could also pick them up. Dangerous, but a possibility.
You can establish a piece of cover for them to move forwards towards, and that's what he's done. Look, he's given the broadside of that vehicle to the enemy, allowing them to crawl, giving them cover so they can't just get tapped away either. Wants to force the res. Oh, has the carry, needs to move him forwards. This is a rescue mission and a half here for the MADBULLS. Wants to try and get that res. He drops in the vehicle. No, oh, you haven't got a lot of time to play with. Are you in the next circle? Not quite. Moves forwards again and loses one to it.
Yeah, now shots are coming his way, and underneath the vehicle, Ulysses, great position there. Has to move out into the blue to explode this car, so it gives him at least some base of operation to play around with. Oh, it's so sad. That really was saving private skills there, but just not quite able to make it happen at the end.
I feel like the position on the car was just too far out of the circle. A meter or two further forwards would have given them a little bit of cover. They could have exploded the car earlier, dropped that wheelbase. but I mean, in the heat of the moment, you know you've got to do something. Potential to have rotated a little bit earlier as well. Do you question the MADBULLS' position and play there?
I don't think so. I think that they try and sweep as much as possible. I think the likelihood of a team like Team Doom to just kind of sit out all of those fights and be as a 4-man is not something that they were expecting. They were expecting to come into a lot less opposition on that side. These teams have to move out though, and the MADBULLS could make a good run for this. And by the MADBULLS, I just mean Zerish all on his lonesome. Nice nade from Kapahala, and that's kind of gonna do it in for Zerish now. How does he really step up to a 3-man team?
Doesn't have any more smokes to play around, so that smoke on his front right is super crucial to be able to leverage. Doesn't have the time to let it go to waste. Spots Kebe, but they spot him. Zeric out in the open field will be the last victim to the barrels of the Eastern Stars. They will be able to claim that one. Eastern Stars with a fairly reserved chicken dinner there.
I mean, they did have to battle off Nexus, and they dealt with them quickly. Ruthless Esports even coming in at that last moment, they were able to keep them out for as long as possible, with some of the players on the high ground just pushing back that final player from the Wizard Tower, which made it quite awkward for the rest of the team to regroup and then have an actual ideal push on towards the Eastern Stars. Again, MADBULLS are very good at getting their team back into action from what does feel like unwinnable positions. They knew exactly what they had to do to ensure that the escape was there. Sadly, Ulysses has one hell of an angle on top of the roof, which just shuts down that push coming through from MADBULLS themselves. I think the terrifying thing for me was how quickly health bars were dropping for Eastern Stars as Zerish just kind of boldly held that position in prone. If he's able to get some more of those headshots onto the player in the window, maybe there's another story there. Maybe he's able to take the 1v3. It can happen with a player like Zerish.
Yeah, I mean, potentially he could have broken out further to the right, but you're 1v3, maybe you're just going for a flush point or two, try and rack up as much as you can. But we are going to head back over to the desk.
Unfortunate for MADBULLS there, but Eastern Stars will be more than happy to close out the victory and get themselves a chicken dinner. Decent result out of them and Ruthless, as we saw them be in the top 3 at the end of the day. MADBULLS, though, I think was a massive talking point for us throughout most of the match there, involved in quite a few different questionable or interesting things that happen, with skills rotating super far east from his team at some point, and then obviously the push in to try to res his 2 teammates for Zerich to get them back alive. But we'll focus on Eastern Stars first. 22 points. Not a bad day for them here.
Yeah, very good compound onto like Cube overall, and also they had, I believe it was 2 teams total crashing on their location. Initially it was Nexus, a little bit of a clumsy push, if I may allow myself to say that. It was a little bit all over the place, so easily Eastern Stars were able to overwhelm it, win that fight, but then Ruthless just also feed into that, try and fight that spot, and because of that you got a little bit of a Cold War happening between those 2 teams, which basically allows some movements in the south from teams like MADBULLS and all the teams towards that cliffside. But Eastern Stars had some great utility from Kapahala in particular that made it very easy to get rid of Ruthless and then put the focus on Zerish in particular. So still, Eastern Stars, really good compound, defended it properly and got himself the win. So we don't see them very often, but it's a big win with 7 elims.
Yeah, well done by them. I think ultimately it's either them or MADBULLS, given the terrain that they're holding or a compound that they're holding, that's going to end up with this win, considering how the circle tendencies are. As you say, for Ruthless, I do think maybe they could have executed that fight a little bit better, but it is what it is as Eastern Stars comes out on top.
Yeah, they did, and obviously we were talking about Zerich. There was an opportunity for him to potentially win that match, but it depended on so many factors and so many things that he couldn't really see, unfortunately, or didn't have a good idea of what was necessarily happening. Yeah. Looking down the rest list here, Na'Vi 2, Pioneer 2, Big 2. Not sure if you want to go into that, Max, about what I was saying before.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a tough circle for a lot of these teams, right? So we're seeing some still big, heavy hitters like Na'Vi and Pioneer going out a little bit earlier. No, not really too much of an issue. It's just a one-off, right? It does happen to them every once in a while. Yeah, Big, though, 2 points, a little bit rough after yesterday, right? I mean, we brought it up, right? Phase 3 is a big opportunity for Big to get all those extra points, to also increase their position in the overall rankings of all 3 phases combined, to potentially get as many points as possible into the finals. So definitely not a good follow-up after that success of yesterday, but yeah, we'll see if they can try and come back at the end. But still, you can see all these fights happening on the east. It's rough to try and make in that final circle in the first place.
I mean, the issue is, yeah, it's a very northern drop to come to a very southern circle. Simple as that. We talked about it before the game.
Yeah. We're seeing some clips here really quickly, though, of actually the result of that push out of skills as MADBULLS pushed onto that cliffside. I think they had VIRTUS.PRO there. I think they had dismantled MUERTE on top. They also had Doom there as well. I think that's where they got majority of their eliminations. But as we obviously progress through, you can see, you know, MADBULLS clean things up and then making it very difficult for them to close out these reses here.
It's interesting is MADBULLS' position and situation, because honestly, I could probably talk about it for ages, for hours, because it is firstly one of my favorite places to play. Like in terms of a linchpin, in terms of a spot in these circles, that high ground there, the yellows below it as well. If you hold that ground strongly, you have a field ahead of you, a flat field between you and the compound where Eastern Stars is, and between you and the teams that are on that cliffside to the east of you. But MADBULLS doesn't just sit there. They actually take a lot of initiative in this game, sending skills there to get even more information than they already had, and using that as kind of a pivot point to then start sweeping teams there, taking a lot of eliminations off the back of it. And yeah, they had some woundings here and there, but it's mad respect to MADBULLS that take a very aggressive stance in what could have easily been just a, we're going to sit on this high ground and hold it.
Yeah, and also very small detail on how Zerish would play in that high ground position at the end, especially in that 5 versus Doomed, is he had that smoke put down. Like, his smokes were, like, super well executed this game, I have the impression, for Zerish. But yeah, that one smoke, and he was just playing slightly to the side of it where you can barely see through and just get the information without getting peeked back. Is a small detail, but that usage of smoke is not the easiest thing to do, but he done it so well and on the perfect timing too, to make sure he can take the fight, they can't shoot back, and then he's just pretty much free to win the southern fight. So good execution from Zerish.
I mean, also his smokes later on when he was trying to help his teammates just crawl in towards the car. He puts his car in a position to hopefully be in front of the blue, or to be in the zone, right? And then he used the smoke wall to allow them to move up so you can get reses, but unfortunately it was just a little bit too short, and he ended up losing both of his teammates. But one team, or two teams, who ended up actually surviving through this barrage quite well was Ruthless and Eastern Stars. When we take a look at their head-to-head between these two teams, because they had the same, or similar compounds in the same area. And we can see actually Ruthless coming out with some really big damage, actually.
Yeah, I think that's mostly off the position of, I think it was Ulysses who was on the roof position, not 100% sure about that one. They had one player on the roof, and he was just lasering down all the players that were trying to enter the circle late. And of course, that's going to be including MADBULLS, and including also, I think, Team Dooms at one point. I think they were third-partying that fight because Ulysses was playing on the roof. A roof position like that that's just surrounded by absolute nothingness at some point. It's just very easy to just gun down the teams around you. So yeah, very good usage of that roof position to get high damage and a few eliminations here and there.
Yeah, quite honestly, this game could have been a lot more difficult for Ruthless if they hadn't got one important knock. And that knock was onto Keme, as they are in the Wizard Tower over the road. And then obviously the circle shifts away, not including that. But that knock onto Keme allowed them to push over the road into the same compound as Eastern Stars, who had to retreat, fall back, kind of move into that recovery position to get him back up. If that doesn't happen, that one knock, they probably don't get a third place in this game. But the fact that they did that instantaneously, okay, push across, get across this road, that's going to be our major hurdle in this game. Very, very well done by Ruthless, even though you don't get the chicken dinner down the road.
Yeah, I mean, taking advantage of situations, obviously, as we saw MADBULLS do it, Ruthless do it. It's a very important aspect to being a good team. And speaking of good teams, let's actually take a look at MADBULLS and their player stats in this last match. I just want to kind of see where things gauge for them. And obviously talked a lot about Zerich, and we normally talk about, you know, Effect and Zerich as like a duo, but great to see that Skills as well, able to put up some decent numbers again with the forward position he took.
I mean, we were almost scratching our heads about Skills' position that he took, right? There was a moment where I'm like, why on earth is he flexing out that far when they have the high ground, they have those buildings that they could quite easily control, they can control what is effectively 33% of the circle from all of that, but they tried to take even more. And Skills' move over to those rocks acts as even more information gain. One, you gain information on how many people are down the cliff completely near the beach and having a problem, and then the other players further up on the rocks, you can then gain information on them as well. So the entire team pivots across there based on Skills information alone, even though he put himself in treacherous waters, mind you, with that position, and then they were able to take so many eliminations off it. I think it was a really cool play as we take a look back at the position for where MADBULLS is playing this from.
Yeah, I think
so we actually were confused, right? Because we didn't realize Skills was still alive. We thought he just went over there to be eliminated, Max.
Yeah, I mean, for some point we were like, he's dead, he's gone, and he was actually just hiding behind the player icons of some of the others on the minimap. But yeah, I mean, he did get a lot of information, and I think that, as you stated, Kalaris, when he said, okay, all the players are down below, this is a minimal risk fight, then they sent it. I think him going there in the first place was a little bit risky. I would like to say maybe a little bit too over-aggressive. I think they just play the high ground position. They remain as a four-man squad. Then the chicken dinner might be coming their way. Even if the circle doesn't come their way, they have the cars. They can easily get in a good spot. But hey, they got eliminations, right? And this is a team that is currently one of the most aggressive teams in the lobby. So if any team can do it successfully, it is MADBULLS.
Yeah, it's an interesting train of thought because honestly, if you do stay on the high ground where MADBULLS had alongside those buildings, chances are the teams on that cliffside either eliminate each other or you can shoot at them from a strong position of advantage. And then afterwards, as Max says, you maybe have 4 alive, you probably have some vehicles. Whilst the Eastern Stars fight is going on against Ruthless, you crash into that compound, potentially, and just try and absolute cause utter chaos there. And MADBULLS is good enough to probably win out that fight. But they took a different route, which I do admire them for, trying to completely clear that side in an aggressive manner that they did. But yeah, there's multiple ways to approach a game of PUBG Mobile.
Yeah, I would have loved to have actually known, what was the comms around that push? Was that the Skills just saying he wants to go for it? Was it a team decision? I mean, but either way, they went as a team eventually with the decision that was made, and they still dominated that entire coast. They didn't get the chicken dinner, but they still got a lot of elims. They still got 20 points added to the tally, and they're continuing that upward trend here for MADBULLS. But it is time to head into our third match of the day now. It's going to be over to Miramar, and John and Blank are going to take you through it.
We're getting into Miramar, Blank. We're ready for the desert. Opens, the planes, the rotations, maybe a little bit more DMR play. Put those DBSs to the side for the moment.
I'm not ready for it, man.
He's not ready.
No. I know what's coming. I don't want to see it.
What?
I think everyone else knows what I'm talking about as well.
Whoa.
So if you can I get some praying hands in chat that we don't see it, please? That's all I need right now. I need some prayers in chat, because please, Arabian champions, please, Death Machine, realize this is actually quite important for you guys, especially where you're sat in the leaderboards and the general rankings. This is a finals deal breaker.
But Picardo, it's good. I drop.
Don't do it.
No. Don't do it.
Well, we'll find out as soon as we head over. But we are going from El Azahar over towards El Pozo. Team Doom, TJB, Shockwave, VIRTUS.PRO all not playing this match. So we do have some heavy hitters still alongside with us. Tora Armada will be not open, because it's Shockwave who's out and not Unicorn to Love, and I've read that slightly wrong, guys, so I do apologize. But looking how things are shaking up, VIRTUS.PRO currently in first place position. Despite not having themselves a chicken dinner recently, they have been consistently towards our end game, and Moneyken still sat at the top in terms of those eliminations.
People just starting to spread out now. Bit northerly on the plane path here, Blank. The southwest of this map going to be far less accessible. You're right.
I've just seen GK first damage total.
Oh yeah, he's going off.
Yeah, just put him on a different team or something. I don't know. Even so, yeah, I don't think he would gel anywhere personally. I think what he needs is a new form of tournament where it's purely single players dropping in, and you just have 64 separate teams. That's where he would do really well. Yeah, he'd do fantastically in that kind of game. Anyway, down towards the southwest once again, John, La Driera. We have seen this numerous times so far. Big actually drops not down towards Chumacera. Instead, they're going to drop over towards where Eastern Stars usually play, down towards Minas Generales. Hopefully get something done from that position.
Eastern Stars are taking up that position right now, and Big probably going to have to figure out how to move further south. I said that the play was north, so that southwest area a little bit inaccessible. With the circle as it is, there should be a lot more accessibility down to the southwest, right? There should be a lot of teams that can move there and spend that time to rotate early, because you get in there and then you can start looting and you'll already then have made your rotation. I don't even care that this is I don't even care. I don't even care that this is happening. Like, it's just... What's the point?
If anything, we kind of have to care, though, because of where it would shake things up in the general rankings. Both teams losing one, though, is already not the most amazing start. Big actually taking a lot of shots over towards Nexus at the moment. That's a double knock coming through instantaneously. Doran also getting flushed out, so Big is making a mockery of Nexus in the meantime.
Really are. Na'Vi lost a player as well. They tried to split, drop, and grab a vehicle. The MADBULLS were actually able to claim that one away and claim a player from the Na'Vi roster that was up near Crater Fields on the east side of El Pozo. As Big continued to go hard against Nexus, finding more knocks and more flushes.
Yeah, honestly, it would be good to look over towards a replay of that Nexus fight, that engagement between them and Big. Purely because that is very crucial for Big, and especially being like quite a surprise play onto Nexus. I don't think they were expecting something like that to come through so quickly and from an odd spot there.
Players continue to fall, potentially a little bit faster than usual on the cage match in Picardo. Jamaz close to Nusa, but I sense that things are about to slow way down. As soon as they make it out to the balconies, that's when it just pauses.
Nusa back on his feet. Kind of a sad timed grenade there, considering it did so much damage, and if the res had come through just a second later.
Oh, that was a bit risky. That was a bit shaky there. Hamo, very low. Only has bandages as well. There is an off angle from Nusa, but has to peek back in. Get those reloads going.
2 apiece right now. You have Arabian champions still at 3. Death Machine trying to keep themselves alive. MADBULLS in El Pozo. Unicorns low up towards Torre Armada as per usual, with another split down towards Cruz de Valle. We'll have to move down towards the south side. Pioneer have a nice spot down towards Valle de Mar. Obviously, they're able to get into position towards La Diera very quickly. Unable to quite win that game out versus QODEX the other day, yesterday, even considering their really strong position on that ridge side. It just moved a little bit too far away from them. QODEX were looking real crispy on Miramar.
Potential to be a little bit interesting on those northern hills. Big expanding their influence on the northern Los Leones hills over towards Nexus. You remember they lost 2 early on. Too big on that engagement. Only one team has really struck down far southwest. It's Pioneer.
Yeah, again, this is where they usually play from Chumacera. And with the south shift, we were just talking about the, yesterday not able to get that win against QODEX with the circles. MUERTE, Monte Nuevo can move down. They have struggled on that Ladriera push. Even with the confidence and the capability of the players on that team, they're not able to kind of sweep as effectively as they would have liked, often find themselves on the low ground.
Reaching minute 6 now. Game Lord moving into the north side of Power Grid, just past Hacienda. Na'Vi is 3. Remember, they lost a player early, moving south from La Copleria. And we'll be on the south side of Crater Fields. Ruthless, this is just out to the northwest side of things. Sorry, the west of Picardo, this is. Ruthless corralled into a single building. As QODEX have got a line, but they are stretched a little bit far north to take this engagement fully.
Yeah, potentially looking for the high ground here for the team. There's a slightly precarious compound to play, and if you have high ground, you can actually spot right through the top of the roof there. So Ruthless Esports send Ulysses out maybe to scout just a little bit. Doesn't quite find anything as of yet, but Woodson will have the grenade in hand. Hopefully can get a single knock, and then maybe the rest of QODEX will be able to swing round and capitalize off the top of that one. Again, difficult with these compounds. There are so many areas to play in. Nusa finally goes down. Now just Hamodi remaining for the team with the DBS, but he moves around the side, just too little too late, and misses that shot as well.
Jumps out, doesn't get a shot, and ARB do close it down. Okay, with 3 players, 4 points, it's decent, right? You know, they needed these points, and we were talking about how crucial it was in general for their performance, but ARB looking to take away Death Machine's spot as well. There's close fighting to be done there. With those 4 points, they add to their potential score for this next, for the rest of this game, right? With ARB starting at 285, Death Machine on 316. I think you highlighted that last game. They're going to be looking to try and make up that 30-point differential.
Yeah, MUERTE there with the off actually does find Pocus. Take some good shots down towards him. They might be able to pick him up again. It's hard to make this crossing with Woodson being able to spot this. Has to quickly get inside. Woodson's just a little bit far off towards the left there. MUERTE's actually going to push this with Manu going down to a knock from a Molotov up top. That is very good, and that will flush him too.
Right over the top of the other buggy there. Spots Salazar trying to peek out around the side. Needs to be careful of the player up the stairs, but falls instead. That is disastrous. Salazar wastes no time getting the flush and gets knocked for his hubris. Pocus now, M249. Plenty of bullets, but 3 players to deal with. Will need to hold strong. Salazar can crawl inside, but that nade looks good. Will he spot it? Reposition? Yes, he will. Pocus is there. Ulysses is on the off angle, but another nade in from Vito. Wants to slow Pocus down. That's not going to find the shot. Not just yet, and Vito repositions away from one of their own.
Pocus takes damage as he moves through the window, and now looking for a little bit more, but Vito's already moved up, so a really good play from Vito to keep repositioning here. We'll send some nades in. Are they protected from that? No, they are not. Now Ulysses all on his lonesome. QODEX just clearing out Ruthless.
Nothing to chance. Salazar getting that flush close range. I mean, fair enough. You know you're not going to win a long-range engagement with the DBS. Or even a mid-range engagement, really, unless you're particularly lucky. So just go for that point, see what you can do. Double barrel through the door frame. Won't quite land. Does get the reload. Now they can have another chance. The spray from the micro Uzi will have to be what's left. Playing these corners nicely, but PNL has the high ground.
Yeah, constantly holding out a lot of different angles there with QODEX. Honestly, it was definitely that Molotov that opened things up the most. Here's that replay that we wanted to see earlier from Big Mozero with a fantastic spray transfer between those 2 players. EXO gets cleaned up not shortly afterwards. And XTEAM, once again, they really are a bane of a lot of these teams in these circles, just playing awkward spots and find themselves initial knocks here and there, taking teams down to 3 players. And Unicorns of Love will be extremely displeased with that one.
Game Lord. 4 players on board. Close around the corner. But not wanting to take this fight. I mean, they're all the way around the side of the mountain. They don't really need to do it. It's an unprompted fight. Might force an error. Na'Vi to their south, though, potentially in the way.
Na'Vi with 3 players. You said this earlier, John, losing a play to MADBULLS early wasn't very happy days for them. Arabian champions Hamodi on the high ground will get sprayed down by Mozero. Pretty obvious spot. He does need to hit a few more shots to ensure that the knock does go through, including the flush, and Mozero just fades away off the top of the ridge, and Jamaz is not able to clean it up there. Will probably peek back over the top to ensure that no teammates can head up towards Hamodi and pick him back up, whilst the bleed out does come through.
ARB, I mean, we talked about how they need to leverage the point-scoring advantage in games where they can against Death Machine to try and take that spot away from them in the finals. But both of them at the moment sat 18th and 19th place in this week's games. They're not racking up the points in the way that they need to.
No, not at all. And it is becoming this weird stalemate between the two of them. Na'Vi take shots down towards Game Lords. They make their cross. They're holding a split along the side of the road. So they'll have to have a lot of presence here. They'll have to make sure that they swing out, make sure that everyone knows that this territory is theirs.
Shift comes down, and it will go towards Chumacera. So Pioneer can start to move in. The question is, which side of the city do they try and take up? I mean, the north side will face a lot more pressure, the potential to rotate away. Or do you just hold in the hills? Because MADBULLS are going to challenge that as well.
I think for Pioneer at the moment, you would most likely want to hang on to that high ground as long as possible. MADBULLS, though, playing down the hill, that is, again, like you said, the real question that you need to face. Do they play in Church and Chumacera and just try and hold out that large area of space that gives you with some high ground to play around with, shooting teams that as they make their way down into Chumacera? Potential urban finish here for us would be enjoyable to see. And MADBULLS, on the other hand, are slowly moving their way up towards that northern side. Na'Vi can be spotted. They have given away position to the players of Game Lord down below and will rotate because of it. They don't want to get caught, you know, out of pocket here. They want to make sure they have still position within the circle and move down towards the south slightly in preparation for that urban finish. In the meantime, Pioneer's set up on all three angles of Chumacera, ensuring that teams can't quite find their way in. I think they are going to move up towards that northeastern side, which is quite smart, in fact, because they want to hold areas that they can see a lot of teams coming in from the east. They already know there should be a team behind them on the hillside, and that is most likely going to become a problem later on. It would be unlikely for MADBULLS to send too quickly in towards Chumacera. So for Pioneer at the moment, it really is all about just setting up the blockade and then just getting those rifles in tow.
Na'Vi move in and establish control in a little building of their own. Octavian and Redox moving up towards Beast here. If Big lose their outpost, could be pretty brutal, but there are only two players of Nexus remaining after their initial engagement with Big from earlier. Beast is around the outside, Miki goes low, SHOCKWAVE crashes in, and they're on the windows, but Beast takes that time to strike, goes low himself. Octavian taken out of the mix, and now it's just Redox, close range with the Mini 14, and it's absolutely blasting right now. SHOCKWAVE now up for the challenge, and will be able to win it out this time around. All four of Big are still alive, with Nexus falling on the southeast.
That was seriously dicey, though, for Big. Not exactly how they wanted that to happen at all. And again, a lot of these players just taking the sight off the Mini 14 and using it very much akin to basically a shotgun. You get one of those lucky headshots from that thing at close range. Goodness me, you're going to be putting that player in the dirt almost instantly. So good play from Redox. Unfortunately, his teammate does fall almost straight away. So I think that for Big, still a good push from them, distracting from all sides. I don't think they were quite prepared for the amount of resistance that Redox is able to show. Shift up towards that northwest, though. This does give chance for MUERTE now, similarly to Game Lord, to try and find themselves a good game. Unicorns love smart rotation down towards that roadside on the west from Torre Armada. Remember, this is a long and not easy rotate for them to make happen, but losing a player early, again, that manpower isn't as big as it should be.
Pioneer did send down into Chumacera to try and hold on that northwestern peak. MADBULLS now probably looking to challenge them a little bit further out to the west. Unicorns of Love out there as well. XTEAM gonna have to leave past Na'Vi as well. Through that gap in the middle potentially, or try and skirt around and challenge out the fight between MUERTE and Game Lord on the east.
Damn. Beg for mercy. Steps up for a second and just gets battered back into the dirt there. Game Lord, on the other hand, they took a knock in Victor, but Robs, although he can make it happen close range with a DBS, pulled out the K9 and sent some beautiful shots back their way.
Fake Aim Gaming crashed onto the northern pincer of the hold from Pioneer. A very split decision right there from our analyst desk. MUERTE for Jason, Na'Vi for Maxman, Pioneer for Kalaris, and he's watching this fight and thinking, what the hell have I done here? I've allowed Jason a chance to try and catch up on the totals, with Flick going down as well on the outside to an off angle. They really have been punished for moving into this city and trying to hold it out against all the teams crunching in from the east.
I think for Pioneer, though, it's a strange change of pace that we see for them not able to hold out versus Take Aim Gaming. Although Take Aim Gaming, I would say, a middling team in terms of skill, that still doesn't feel like they should have gone down as quickly as they did. And I do think that's because of the split that Pioneer tried to take. I don't think they were quite ready for that absolutely aggressive push coming through from Take Aim Gaming. Just get stuck in to Pioneer. Hamo has to move out. XTEAM's ready for it, sends a nade in, and he's forced back into the blue here.
We'll have to heal out for a second longer. Gemaz goes down. So there's only Hamo left. XTEAM fading the reposition to get a little bit more healing on board, but will have to go for it sooner or later. Na'Vi with the scopes out this way, force XTEAM to move through and potentially towards this engagement. If they swing out westward, they will come into contact with Game Lord and MUERTE.
It's an interesting pick from Maxman onto Na'Vi, but it's one you can't really complain about either, considering how well these guys operate, even a player down or 2 players down. You can't count them out no matter what happens. Meku charges the grenade in hand, will send it over the top. Does explode in the middle of them though, so not too much damage found, but now he can kind of re-isolate the targets.
Spotted Logan there, but dropped it a little bit off the money. Plays the 7-10 ball on the split with the nade. Finds it again, but this time a lot of damage over towards Nightmare. Repositions out to the left. The nade comes over the top. That's a little bit short. If it had been just a touch longer, would have found Nightmare, no problem. Na'Vi controlling. And XTEAM don't have that many nades in Zombie just yet. 3 players for them. And oh, hang on a minute. There's a QODEX knock over towards Na'Vi.
Yeah, Vito comes in from the backstab, and now Meku's fairly out in the open, has to just go for the prone. Would like to get back to the compound, but being that amount of HP, he knows he has to go for the first aid kit here if he wants to reposition safely. Most likely he will take some bullets on the approach. MADBULLS taking shots down towards Eastern Stars, who tries to slip their way through the midst of Chumacera. XTEAM now taking shots of their own from up top. I think that's MUERTE trying to just keep them at bay.
ERB going down there. 5 limbs on the game, so not the worst game, but still not the sort of performance they need if they can if they want to close that nigh on 30-point gap on the overalls to be able to ladder up over Death Machine and take a spot in the finals. Na'Vi back to 3, want to sweep out, it seems. This is a style that we know they like to play, and not going to change that here. Meku backed off by Zombie. They bait out the peak with that reposition on the buggy, and they hop on down to get those shots on in. Meku abandoned by Na'Vi.
Yeah, it will be really rough to get him back up again. Matic does not miss those though, so Zombie just challenges him on the 1v1. Now Na'Vi has to go in as the 2 there. Unfortunately, XTEAM were in their way. Game Lord putting back against the guys from MUERTE, but Rob's had a full angle, but just too little too late on it. Now Victor has to support, but Game Lord, I think the damage has already been done towards them.
Leaving just Victor alive now, as Narvalo fell behind the tree as well. Na'Vi actually going back for the res, so trying to stay as 3 here. XTEAM suffering on their push to Game Lord's off angle. Vict, a solo arbiter on this northeastern side. Will try and keep that control going, but MUERTE at 4 are looking good. Kitsune, unfortunate.
Molotovs himself, and whilst they went for the res down the bottom side on towards Meku, now they're going to lose a player up top, and they're in the broadside open towards Striker. Matix on the floor, trying to take some shots back, but quickly dispatched by Striker once again. In the meantime, Victor moved out the way, one of them only found for Na'Vi, and XTEAM again. Just really difficult to push through this team. They are very unwilling to give up position, even when it doesn't really favor them. MUERTE with 4 players could potentially do something good within this circle, but remember, MADBULLS still on that south side. Gonzo did take a tumble right down towards MADBULLS' position, but at least Unicorn's Love did retrieve some information back that way.
Take Aim Gaming. Moved in towards Pioneer and were able to take the brunt of that fight and take them down. Stay as 4 as well. Unicorns of Love close to them on the south side of this next circle, and the MADBULLS yet to push in.
Unicorns will get circle here, keep dropping smokes down towards the floor, but Crypto, as fast as he medkits back up again, will fall and can't quite crawl back that way. There's a Molotov there.
Skills behind the party bus. Mind Scope trained his way. Victor spotted as well. Last player from Game Lord. And out in the blue as well. Not going to be able to survive that one. Ingush finds another point. And MUERTE, they're looking fairly solid here as a 4-player team, but now everybody left in this circle is as 4.
MADBULLS pull out the broom, sweep away. Unicorns are love out this lobby. They do lose skills up top side, so that will delay them slightly, and they are on the long edge of the blue, so we'll have to move up. Take Aim Gaming just currently trying to hold them out for as long as possible. 7 eliminations found so far for MUERTE, hoping to bring their point scoring back total up just a little bit. 4 Romanian men also as a 4, so very, very dominant amount of teams in this lobby. We have a 4 team of 4 here. No one wants to lose the initiative. It will be guns a-blazing. Take Aim Gaming, lose a knock, and another one from Effect.
Really pushing in, but MUERTE, they have such a good firing line down onto these positions. They've got excellent sight control. Dadaev does get knocked, but there is plenty of cover to get these reses, and look at the damage pouring on into the rest of the squads. MADBULLS somehow weather that storm on the south side and come out smelling of roses with 13 eliminations already, Blank. That was, I think, 8 just there.
Yeah, 4 picked up immediately away from Take Aim Gaming with some great nades coming out from Effect. This guy is fantastic. They might just be able to pick up some more eliminations down towards 4 Romanian men, but giving up position down towards this end of things where Skills is holding. They don't want to let MUERTE pick up too much pace here in the lobby.
If MUERTE can move forwards to this next ridge, they'll be in nade range of MADBULLS, which does go both ways, but I think MUERTE have had a little bit more expenditure on their utility on those nades in the fights that they've had on the northern side. MADBULLS a little bit more conservative with that usage.
Still, Monkey only down to 1 nade, and I think that was another player down to 1 nade on the utils. Alawi does go down, but that is to a player from MUERTE looking to pick up as much of these eliminations as possible. There's 2 loot crates on the side of MUERTE, so they will be all level 3'd up. Difficult targets to take down, and with the high ground that they're currently possessing, how do the MADBULLS play around this one? Circle moves up towards MUERTE's way, and now it's just a full-on brawl. It's going to have to be some incredible plays coming out from MADBULLS to take this one down. And MUERTE, they can't be too passive about this one. They have some big guns in the pocket. For MADBULLS at the moment, it's looking for these cheeky little angles that they can find. Effect has moved up straight away to the edge of the circle. And they're looking for more angles here, playing as single units, as individuals, perhaps waiting for this next circle, in fact.
I mean, MUERTE, I feel like they might know the utility disadvantage that they're at. They're scraping the bottom of the barrel with theirs. As they move forwards, they are in nades, but they have good sight lines here. MUERTE do have to crest the ridge.
Yeah, this is why I'm assuming they're waiting for this next circle, because it's unlikely that it's going to keep in that ridge side for MUERTE, but they don't want to let up the pressure just yet. There is positions that MADBULLS can move themselves into, which will make it really difficult for MUERTE to make this push over the top. No stims, no nothing. Skills with a huge amount of utility in terms of nades, but continues to play his off angle, realizes he needs to get back to the rest of the team with the support of the smokes that have been placed down. His nades will be absolutely crucial in these endgames.
Having played on that off angle, he hasn't been in the main contact, which is why he's got that stockpile. Not only that, but Zerek has 3, which is a nice little backstop there to be able to double nade on with a teammate. Spraying in. Striker gets backed off just a little bit. MUERTE, I feel like they have the advantage at this stage. Without smokes being put forwards, what can you do? I feel like that's just out of range, but maybe they're going to be able to find it all the way to the back. Not going to be able to get it in before the reposition comes through. A lot of damage sent over towards their players. The smoke is there to cover off Striker on that off angle, but he can light them up through it and just put that danger play into action. A nice nade towards the back, and one more nade in the hand of Zerek, but it might not be needed. Striker and English now left as 2 players for MUERTE. MADBULLS moving over this hillside, but Effect clipped. Striker still going as well. Brings 3 into the fold for MADBULLS.
Skills, nade in hand. This has to be a good one over the top side. Should be able to find at least something. Does direct them off the res slightly, and they will finish off Dariev now. This is a 2v3. 1 player from MUERTE on the floor.
Somehow English survives that. A wide nade from Skills leaves him barren. No more, except for those 2 Molotovs. So potential to reposition them. Striker moving, trying to dissuade the res, and will be able to do so. There's a player at his back, and that's it. They turn it on, and Skills falls as well. MUERTE Marshall from the top of the hill, and the MADBULLS, they had a really, really good start there, opening it up, but it turns back to the favor of MUERTE.
I think they dropped the ball on that one slightly with the amount of damage markers that came through. And if anything, I do think that singular knock from the grenade kind of throws the whole game plan out the window. And I really respected what they were doing. I loved what they were doing, which was slowly moving up, slowly getting to nade range. As soon as you start throwing those grenades over the top, and believe me, that was a beautiful toss from all 3 players. They would just send them all over. They got a ton of damage done. Then they just had to wait for that next circle. And that's how they were always playing towards the beginning. And I think the MADBULLS get a little bit too overzealous in those last moments and just go try full for the full team wipe. But again, you're playing into that position that you never wanted to go up towards the beginning, which is that ridge side that MUERTE is holding. And it is just all sadness and tears as soon as you see that next circle, which moves out down towards MADBULLS' way, in which case they can play it. After all that damage was put in, you are almost certain that MUERTE wouldn't have been making it off that ridge side alive, and I think they pulled the trigger too early. Other than that, MADBULLS' gameplay up until those last 2 minutes was nigh on perfection, John.
Yeah, it was looking pretty clean, I think, from quite a few teams, actually. That seemed to be pretty good. MADBULLS controlling down the hill. MUERTE playing that backstop line. It looked shaky, but they pulled it together. They turned things around, and MUERTE take Miramar.
Yes, Jason.
Just gonna give you a smile. Just gonna give you a smile. That's all I need. To take the victory here up against MADBULLS at the very end. But to be honest, that was very, very close at the end. That nade, I think it was out of Zerish to open things up as they pushed into MUERTE. And the firing squad out of both teams going head-to-head there from the low ground and high ground. Honestly, I thought MADBULLS were going to take it.
Man, that nade opened so much potential for the side of MADBULLS from Zerish. But to be honest, if they won that fight, there was such a complicated circle to finish, I would say, their collage. They had to go downhill in a valley, then back uphill, while on the other side, it was high ground elevation, go in the way of MUERTE, and they also have those little ridges to like use as their third-person perspective to scout without taking too much of a risk. That should have been a MUERTE win from the start. It got a little bit weird at the end, but then I think the res in particular made it a bit hard for MADBULLS to, you know, hold the angles.
Yes. I'm pulling my hair out at the notion of trying to get both reses at the very end. I think it's way too greedy for MADBULLS after they've made such a valiant effort to try and get to where they were. Stick both of those reses. The res, me and Max were talking about it as it ended, basically. Unfolded. Yeah, the res stick on the tree, I'm okay with, but the res stick on the ridge line, at that point, that is the angle that you have to be holding to make sure you can try and get that first res off over on the tree in the first place. And yeah, the greed kicked in there for MADBULLS, and MUERTE punished it quickly.
It was interesting though, because I think it was not a bad call to go for the res, right? I think just one res would have been enough, but clearly when there was that moment where there was no shooting, everything calmed down, I think MADBULLS realized, oh, they're going for the res, let's res too. But because you think of that, you already lost a few seconds. They already pulled off the res on the other side, so they're just now going for the first aid, then they're going to push you, and because of that lack of time, unfortunately, I think that one res behind the tree, then holding the angle would have been enough. The idea was there, but a little bit overcommitted. Like we saw in last match from MADBULLS, trying to do too much when they can just go for the simple approach and potentially get the win off the back of it. But still, consistency for MADBULLS, they still gave himself always that 15 elims and 12 points for that second place.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, man, they're still consistent on top.
As Blank was saying in the cast, it was very well played by them. I think they would have had more problems had Pioneer survived the tag situation in the city, considering that they would have both been on a very similar rotational path from one another, and they're both big heavy hitters in the lobby. But tag sorted that out for them and then eventually transitioned higher, and they became the victim with brilliant grenades left, right, and center from MADBULLS. So for MADBULLS, it was a perfect path in, but just not the perfect path at the very end.
I mean, it was just such dominant performance, I'd say, out of DMUERTE and MADBULLS, because you had DMUERTE clearing the north side, you had MADBULLS clearing the south side, and then obviously those two opposing forces had to go head-to-head at some point. I mean, we had 4 teams left alive with 4 players each. We hardly don't see that too often anymore these days when it comes to these later zones, and honestly, it was such a great closeout by DMUERTE. But even with MADBULLS not winning, like we've been basically alluding to, they have just punished most people in the lobby, and they are such a strong team as well, almost winning the fight, fighting uphill. And let's take a look at the two teams and their stats when it comes to each other here in this last match. We can kind of maybe break some stuff down here. Assists, pretty even. Damage, pretty even. Limbs, pretty even. I mean, it was like the immovable object up against the unstoppable force.
Yeah, and MADBULLS unfortunately did meet the immovable object of DMUERTE at some point, and that's not going to go too well for them. But yeah, I mean, MADBULLS are just backfilling a lot of the teams that were entering from the southern side away from Chumacera, and good execution overall from MADBULLS. As I think Blank put it earlier at the end of that game, like a perfect game, it seems, when it comes to their mid-game, late-game rotations. Just that one little stumble at the end that does cause them to lose that game out, but still a very strong position and game overall for them. So yeah, I think MADBULLS still are just phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. They're still there. They're not going anywhere, and clearly still a top contender for the finals. But there's little things, if they worked on, man, they could just get win after win, I think.
Well, I mean, do you think, Max, maybe they're just being more relaxed here because they're feeling pretty comfortable? I mean, they should make it into the... I mean, they're going to make it into the finals.
Yeah.
Obviously, they can make it into the finals with a little bit more points, but do you think they're just kind of getting comfortable, or do you think they're still trying some stuff out? Like,
I mean, I'm looking at their point lead currently. Currently, they have a point lead of 36, and that was only 2 phases. They could easily double that in this phase, and of course, the overall rankings too. I think that what we saw, especially on the last game, I don't know if you potentially agree with this, but I feel like they're just trying things out. Like, they know they're making it in the finals, right? 100%. Even if they have a really bad phase 3, they're making it in the finals. I think now they're just trying things out a little bit more, just flexing things out and seeing what sticks, what doesn't, and just to try and get that experience before the finals. It feels like that's what they're doing in this third phase, what they're using as just a test, almost.
I'd sort of agree with that. I feel like the things that defeat MADBULLS at present are 1, the other CIS teams in a team fight, or 2, themselves. And if they can either, weed out some of these moments where they're being a little bit kind of, not indecisive, but overzealous with some of these pushes and things like that, then yeah, then you make an even stronger MADBULLS. But as you say, with last Erangel especially, I feel that was a very strong indicator of like, okay, we're gonna push ourselves to limits and see where that limit is in regards to splits and then being able to take those fights.
It's like your Nova, basically. I would say, like, use the league stage to train, then you got the finals, and that's when you're really going like all out in the finals to like actually get those big results. So it seems like that's kind of what we're alluding to here. Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at our total damage that last match. I'm just really curious to see if DMUERTE and MADBULLS were the ones. Yeah, that's what I was kind of expecting there with the limbs they had.
Was anybody else playing this game? Oh,
I only see MADBULLS and DMUERTE.
They were being eliminated. I don't know much about playing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's as we said, MADBULLS had a great path in south. DMUERTE had a great path in north. I'm slightly surprised overall that DMUERTE comes out with the win, because I do think that maybe MADBULLS in those final moments could have been able to eke it out. But again, it's of their own making, their own path, their own willingness to be able to get to tight spots where I think other teams would not be able to get to.
Yeah. I'm looking at Navi stats though, 1 elimination, almost 800 damage. That's why I predicted them in this game. They were in a spot where they could have gone for the very high ground plateau north of Chumacera, and in that late game circle, not quite the last circle, but the one before that, if they were in that position, you're looking at MADBULLS, you're looking at Pioneer, you're looking at Tag, Unicorns of Love. Those teams, there's a high chance they don't even make it in because they're just getting absolutely rained down with bullets in that circle. So I think Navi had potential, but unfortunately didn't move. And then Romanian main came in and just cleared them. So there was potential, but didn't quite see it at that time.
Well, they felt the Force have some problems when Max picked them, and then they made it like, and we're going to throw. Let's take a look at our overalls, though. We haven't checked in quite a while. We're through our third match of the day, and it's a good time to see where teams currently stand. As you did have Big leading the pack at the start of the day by 2 points, but unfortunately they have fallen to 6th place.
unfortunate that, considering, I mean, you'd maybe had a word with them before, Jason, and it seemed like that they were feeling more confident coming into phase 3.
Yeah, on the up and up, but I mean, we could dive into that a little bit later. I just want to make sure I have all the words out of Mihi correct in my head, and hopefully when they predict or when they do well, we can bring that up as well. But you can see at MADBULLS, 0 chicken dinners, 45 Olymp points, 85 points. Like, this team is they have to be a CCT, Kalaris.
MADBULLS is a CCT. All right, like, looking at how they're playing things out, they are a championship caliber team here, and I don't think that's going to be stopping anytime soon. That being said, when it comes to CIS, I mean, there's so many teams that either currently reside in that category that we haven't quite kind of added the pin to, or teams that are really on the cusp of doing so. So it's great to see them all here in West Europe, genuinely leveling up the playing field on the Battlegrounds.
Oh, I'm looking at TJB's position here, 15th position so far. In the overall rankings before this phase started, they were in 14th position. There's a chance that the previous champions of last season, they don't even make it in the finals if they keep this tendency going. So that will be a big shocker. But I mean, currently on a downward trend, and TJB might not even make it to the next stage.
Yeah, big shocker if they don't qualify yet again here after the performance from last season. Also, we want some big shockers. We want to see how you guys are watching PMPL. You can tweet with the hashtag PMPLWEU. You can post over on Instagram. We want to make sure to get your post here on the show. We saw one yesterday, you know, chilling in the cool, in the dark, watching some PMPL, watching John Allen and Blank's faces. We didn't get to see our faces, so if you want to take one with us on screen, we'd be very happy about that. But you know what? We're unfortunately going to have to fall off the screen here, Kalaris, because we have to throw it to our commentators. Going back to Sanhok with John Allen and Blank.
Get them out of here. We're coming on in. We're coming to fill up your screens for the next, what, like 10, 15 seconds, Blank? It's going to be great. I'm sure you're going to have a great time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these guys are on camera like all day, but we're the ones who take photos off. That's honest at the end of the day. We are the shinies. You only get a certain amount of time to get those photos in. So look, don't listen to the desk. Listen to us, guys. We know what we're talking about. But we're heading over to Sanhok now, our second Sanhok of the day. Today, we will be finishing out the entirety of Phase 3, Day 2 with an Erangel. And then we're on to the next day, and that is the last day of the first week. But this Sanhok comes first. Let's see what teams can get done here. I think we should have Na'Vi coming back in to try and control the outpost of Sanhok. Overall, I'm very excited for this one, John.
Yeah, it should be good to see that Northwestern Island back to basics. VP will have to readjust away from that Camp Alpha. Well, I mean, either that or challenge big on it, which I don't think is probably one of the better ideas that you could come up with VP being in this game as well as big. Eastern Stars not playing, QODEX not playing, Pioneer not playing, 4 Romanian men also out of the mix. In general, Eastern Stars may be on that northern side, one of the major points of interest in terms of rotations that could be a little bit discoverable.
Wouldn't be surprised to see MADBULLS actually switch away from Paradise Resort and try and take up boot camp position for themselves. I don't imagine VP is going to challenge big in their drop spot of Camp Alpha. They'll just go back to basics over towards Camp Bravo on this map. Na'Vi most likely heading up towards the Northwest Island. Looks like MADBULLS maybe... Nah, it looks like they're heading out towards Paradise Resort. I'm excited to see who will pick up boot camp in this game, though.
Looks like ARB are going to drop there almost immediately. They have spotted that opening. Na'Vi down southwest, and where are big? They seem to have disappeared.
Yeah, they're just chilling, man. I mean, we'll figure out exactly where all these teams will be playing, and Big's heading up towards Hatin here. I believe that is purely because, and I'm checking, Eastern Stars aren't in the game, so they can pick up Hatin rather easily and then start to challenge out towards Game Lord. Again, this is one of those positions where you do have to be careful of Game Lord, as they have set up a line towards that side of the bridge before and taken shots towards Eastern Stars in this position. But I think Big will be very well aware of that. No one else dropping over towards that side. A southeast shift on the circle down towards Quarry. This time Ruthless might be able to pick up something with that one. They have a very long split down towards Docks all the way up towards Lakawi. They generally pick up position towards the western side of Quarry early on, take that that compound and try and fight out any teams in that area. Currently, SHOCKWAVE will be holding that spot. Chulika out in the water. They drop a little bit late, and XTEAM should have spotted that. Maybe Mia's going to come up and try and assist with his escape from that position, but Logan just does not keep the eyes on that position long enough, and I think Chulika has just sat up in the water.
Don't think Chulika would have got a weapon, though, not just yet. Should be able to come up for breath around the headland. Logan's bothered by it, but not too worried. He knows that he'll probably spot it if it's a close range re-emerging, and around that headland is a long way to go. So as long as you don't come up on the beach, you've got a lot of time to sort of play around to get some of that loot on board, and that's exactly what he's done. And there's no real challenge there from Chulika. We'll probably head south towards some of the compounds there.
Yeah, Chulika's lungs were burning a little bit there. Took about 50% damage there just from the water alone, but we'll be able to get back to the rest of his team. Information provided on that northern side towards Mong Nai, though, for VP, so they can be well aware of that as they move down towards Lakawi. Similar type of situation that we saw in the past from Bigatron, as well as a Bangladeshi team, which I forget the name of, I'm so sorry. But these are the two guys that would just fire all the time, and it would cause problems for Bigatron, but now that VP has the bead on it, I think that they can be well aware that XT might make this eastern rotate, and they can quite easily just hold them out.
Na'Vi very... Oh, yeah, if you go ahead and if you've got to find that. Na'Vi very quickly make that rotate down towards the compound. We saw them be a little bit slower on this sort of circle before, and Take Aim Gaming actually sideswiped on in. This time around, though, Take Aim Gaming not really going to give them any jip, and Na'Vi are fast over towards the central compound that we've seen many different teams kind of go for in the past, but they get that junction compound that is so heavily prized in circles like this.
Absolutely, John. This is decent for them. It was A1, I remember now.
Ah, of course, yeah.
We're good, we're good. I thought it was P1, it was A1. I didn't want to say P1 because I wasn't entirely confident in that.
Good, you should.
But keeping track of about 1 million teams is difficult these days.
Yes, there are quite a lot of teams across the world. 16 teams per Pro League, at least. Minimum, we've got 20 here, so there's quite a few going on. And then in each of the sub-regions, how many pro teams is that? It's got to be it's got to be almost 200.
Yeah, there's a fair few teams knocking around. Do have a pretty lively ecosystem. Trazen spotted underneath. You got to be aware of that. Standing there is just a dead giveaway to any teams like Xiao or players like Xiao who spots out that. We'll be aware of it. TJB's having none of it. Na'Vi immediately sent towards Arabian Champions, move down towards that compound that Pioneer typically pick up so often. Meku does get knocked. I think that's them down to just the singular player and Matic, who's going to have to pull out a miracle if he wants to bring his teammates back up to full force, or at least full 3. But it is the Arabian Champions to fully wipe out Na'Vi with the help of Octavian from NEXUS. What a disastrous result for them.
That's far from what they wanted to happen there. They were early to that compound as well. ARB were not there, and they didn't take that northern side of the road. They did, or maybe they tried to, but ARB just crashed straight on into them and just stopped them from really getting anything done. It is not great. It's not what you expect from Na'Vi.
I think they were slightly late to it. I think Arabian Champions just taking the exact same rotational path as Pioneer, albeit just a little bit earlier down towards that spot. Now, I do sympathize with Na'Vi, although the engagement was pretty bad. I think that's just a overconfidence play of this is open. Pioneer is not in boot camp. It is unlikely that anyone else would make this similar rotation this quickly at minute 6 in towards the Crossroads compound, and they're just caught unawares by it. I don't think that will happen again for Na'Vi, as they've learnt their lesson. Nade goes out the side, Nightmare does go down, and GK First picks that one up. So currently so far, TJB doing a good job to keep Shockwave away from this position. Now down to just 2 players with Aza and Hakoni still remaining.
GK First around the door frame. The pre-fire's there, but peeks out into it. No fear from GK First.
Again, the UMP absolute laser beam. Oh, quite fine, Hakoni. What a good spray as well coming through from GK first. This guy turns it on when he wants to.
He looked like he was on the money there. I thought that was going to be another elimination. And Hakoni was going to fall down, leaving Shockwave out. But no, he managed to survive for just a moment longer. Xiao now under pressure from Death Machine on the off angle, north side.
Zittel trying to spot out final player from Shockwave there, but instead they will both move back down towards this compound. TJB doesn't really want to give up this spot on the eastern side of Quarry. Decent position to play in as well. Unicorns are love taking it nice and slow, but XTEAM, so many times now have they caused problems, caused difficult situations for the guys of Unicorns of Love. A little tricky for them to get through. And I think for Sanhok at the moment, Unicorns of Love just have to be on the 360 swivel at all times, ensuring that they're scouting out each and every single position so they can make it through with 4 players. Effect getting knocked down on the run through, losing one of your most valuable players of the team this early on. Not great for MADBULLS. Again, like the guys on the desk were saying, these are very, very secure into the finals though. So that team not too worried at this point in time, though those extra points towards the finals would be beautiful. Nightmare gets caught out by Unicorns Love, and this is a good start for Unicorns Love, and one that they have not found in quite the while.
Opening up onto the front runner there for XTEAM. Don't really think that's going to be Resable there, especially when Crypto's peeking you when you're down. Beg for Mercy wants to put some cover. Corral teams into the left of this smoke and try and open up on them. Reznov behind the tree, potentially pinged out by a teammate there. Beg for Mercy seems to be thinking about putting a nade that way, but one from Reznov. A little bit short, goes in front of the rock on the right-hand side. Beg for Mercy not going to be tagged up by that. Crypto putting lead down range. We're not finding anything.
Shots from the side though, Gonzo goes all the way out wide. And with the help of Reznov as XTEAM, Beg for Mercy tries to reposition, and another foul from Gonzo. That's a real setback now for XTEAM.
Excellent.
And a real opportunity for Unicorns of Love to move through here onto MADBULLS as well, down to a 3-man.
Zombie, last player standing now. XTEAM left fairly destitute here. Icy out in the open, Reznov there as well. Zombie needs to land a spray or 2, but takes a bullet, and that might be the death warrant. Even if you find 1, even if you find 2, there are still 2 more to deal with, and it's just too much. Eliminated, last player falls, and Unicorns of Love pick up 4 points.
I mean, Unicorns of Love extremely hands-on with that fight, right? Take control of it, find the angles. Gonzo sending out finally works out, by the way. Not in quite some time has a play like that from Gonzo gone too well for them, but there it is perfect. And I think that this is still good news for Unicorns of Love, that they're still prepared to make those kind of engagements again the next 4 days. As Maxman said, a great playground for a lot of these teams who are towards the top of the tables to figure out some new tactics, engage in some more heavy warfare, and try and get some practice in before we head up towards those finals where things can conclude very quickly in a short amount of games.
Time is ticking away. Not only in the game, but in terms of the overall standings. And Unicorns of Love putting 4 points on the board. I mean, this is good. You said we hadn't seen this from them in a while. It's good that in day 2 they can start to put some more points on the board, because in phase 2 they were absolutely playing out their minds. They were a contender for that top spot overall. In the first phase, a little bit less than that, but they still finished 7th, 207 points. They're 5th overall right now. And they're not too far behind the players above them. So definitely putting your best foot forward for Unicorns of Love. Good news. Play from that northern side, play with strength, and keep yourself going.
It's not been the biggest of a firecracker start for Unicorns of Love so far. 32 points, currently sat in 16th place in phase 3. And I think a lot of that has come off the back of just losing some players early and not able to transition off the back of that, where, you know, I think they have been kind of in the mud right now, just wading through and not quite able to get themselves out of this rut. But now it feels like, you know, they're back on track just slightly. This game might be the one they need to get that momentum back on board. And with a good game here, with how the current leaderboards is shaking up, with MADBULLS being quite far ahead of anyone else, there's a lot of movement that can happen in a short span of time for these teams this early on in the phase.
Gamelord did actually move out further north, back towards the edge of the blue just now. So I have to wait and see what they're trying to do with that. Are they going to go for a heal strat this early? I mean, wouldn't be the greatest, but might increase their point scoring potential. Big, rotating all the way over the north side in a boat from Hatin, where they initially dropped. They didn't go for those crossings. They didn't want to challenge Gamelord on that bridge. They've seen the Eastern Stars go down to it. Doran goes low on the crash from NEXUS, onto the position from Team Doom. A second player falls for them, and NEXUS not really having the best of times, but Zero is still there, still has the DBS. Sarah goes down, and it is just the one now for NEXUS to try and hold it out. So Octavian will find the one, will find an answer, and gets a couple of knocks over towards Team Doom, leaving them just at 2. So it's doable in a 1 versus 2, but these reses can start to come through. Flushes are there, under the building. Perks breaks out wide, goes for the first challenge, will lose it. Octavian, though, not so lucky for the second, and Team Doom stay up with 3. Take Aim Gaming right next door.
Yeah, Take Aim Gaming are going to come and try and finish this one out for them. Actually move away from it, surprisingly. I think that could have been a free couple of pointers for them, should they have continued on this one. This is Gamelord, who are just sifting their way over towards that northern side edge of Quarry, not looking to dip back in, but GK first gets in the vehicle at the wrong time, and will just have to get on the moped. Unfortunately, can't quite hit the shots on towards him, and he gets away in quite the funny fashion.
I don't think Zittel spotted Rob's leaving on the left-hand side of that building, as he was already scoped in, and I think the scope might have blocked it. So potentially they think there's still someone behind that little shack for the time being. They're covering off the angles, but Gamelord firmly plant themselves in the compound down the hill.
Yeah, it's pretty central as well. Now, Big's moving in on the coast. You can see there on the right side of your screen. They will be able to come up. There is a slight incline that you can walk up on that side. We have seen teams just absolutely get blown apart as they make this entrance. And Unicorns at Love, not necessarily aware of this, and this could be a huge backstab and assassination onto a team that would like to have a good game here on Sanhok and have had a good start to it. This would be, I would say, one of the most frustrating endings if Unicorns of Love get taken down by Big here.
They should be worried to their north. So the player who's watching out there might be on the lookout in that sort of direction. I mean, it's more to their west, to be honest. So even then, it's pretty tricky. And you've always got to be worried about the water, I think, in Sanhok. But if they are unaware of it, you're right, it's could be disastrous as teams start to move down south. VIRTUS.PRO with one of the priority compounds right now.
Yeah, has walls around it too, so a lot of cover provided towards them. VIRTUS.PRO immediately getting the circle. This was from Camp Bravo, so they were able to move down pretty succinctly without too many teams in their path. MUERTE looking to get themselves set up and gone. Ruthless Esports do have one player remaining behind in Ulysses, looking maybe to catch some of these points as MUERTE make their exit. That is the pick-off that we were waiting for. Icy does go down to 3 for Unicorns of Love, and they were not expecting it, John.
Ruthless Esports up the top of the hill, having shots sent out their way into MUERTE's land, right on target. Really nice shots there. Excellent spray from Flyke to be able to land an opener for MUERTE, but the blue zone will push. Past Ruthless, they have to march. Suppressed still on this ridgeline. This is on the southeast of the circle, and the minimap showing us the northwest right now. So we've got vision on everything that's going on here. Ulysses spotted and taken out of the mix. Flyke, though, not so lucky. Team Doom have the eye.
2 players make that 1 player remaining now for Unicorns of Love with just Crypto on the off angle. They were able to find Sway, but that's about it. So sorry, Maxman. It won't be the day. And this is just a late water rotate coming through from Big that has worked out massively well for them. Again, very frustrating there for Unicorns of Love on a game where they thought they could sweep in and maybe take it to the team of VP.
It's Old Boy's wall. He's playing around it. Does he have the same superpower? No, not quite. DJB relying on GK first, who gets the spray onto 1, 2, and now just Rob's left. GK first. Trying to get the heal, and we'll be able to do so. The ping can come through from Akashi. That info is there. Reposition after the nade, but the first nade went through, and now Robs is at the health deficit. The nade didn't find what they were looking for. With the blue zone there, he's forced out. Robs cuts cut down. GK first for TJB, stays alive.
7 eliminations so far as well. 13th place, 1 elimination, not where you wanted to end up. Death Machine looking to extend their advantage over the guys from Arabian Champions this game, who did fall.
VIRTUS.PRO in this next circle, primed and ready to go. Can Big take it from them on the north?
There is a compound towards the south that maybe a team can take up residence in. Team Doom been doing some good stuff today, actually. Been quite surprised by their performance. MADBULLS looking to push through Take Aim Gaming. They were able to pull them apart at the seams last game, and that's a nice shot from Monkey. It takes down Hadj.
I haven't checked the building across the way, and Akoni from Shockwave might be in luck there to stay alive for just a little bit longer. Toffee's last standing for Take Aim Gaming. Did manage to get 1 little tickle over towards MADBULLS, but we'll find the rest as well as Take Aim Gaming pick up the points and stay at 3. Actually, MADBULLS fall on that crash. I felt like it was going the way of MADBULLS.
Big now taking a big, heavy engagement versus VP. They lose 1 on the entrance to that engagement itself. They might be able to get the player back up again if they're playing on the outside of the wall. But you can see off of the distance there, the players are on low HP. Swave instantly gets re-knocked. Not looking too hot there for Big at the moment. They still have a chance. They got up to the wall, and that's the main thing for them.
They do have that slice, but they need to move forwards because the blue zone will push them out of these areas, out of that back set of buildings. Swave getting rezzed, sure, but pressure is still surrounding them. VIRTUS.PRO eking out Big, finding everything they can from them. There's the cross from Mihi and gets spotted. Sprayed out from Mert. Excellent crossfire established. The smoke train will not cover off 2 of them, but 2 do cross. And it's Beast and Mazzaro to be able to get in, but not so lucky anymore. Tulika is there, gun in hand, and there's a player ready and waiting. Big cut down as they try and move through the compound. VIRTUS.PRO can control further. Death Machine in the meantime against Take Aim Gaming on the southwest, and Hakoni is still there, by the way, Blank. Take Aim Gaming almost losing Toffees there, but in come Death Machine. Trying to swing around the side, spray for 1, but traded off. Nusa will be able to flush that one out, and the res can get initiated. How happy around the side, wants to push in, find the flush himself. Samo will fall, and the rest of Death Machine flood on out of the door frame. Will be able to find the knock and the flush, and the final blow dealt to Take Aim Gaming with Hakoni still alive.
He's just living through this one after what was a bad start for this team versus TJB. Crypto does take down another player there. TJB with only 1 left. 7 eliminations for Unicorns of Love so far, so a salvageable game if Crypto can live just a little bit longer. He is in the tree line. Death Machine moves away from this position. Only 2 first aid kits there for Hakoni. Might want to look for a quick flush on one of these players from Death Machine.
Has time to run for it, but actually no. Maybe he's going to go for the crates and get some healing done. It's zone 6, so has a little bit of time to play with. Instead, he goes for the fight. Hamodi shut down on the outside, and that's actually Death Machine taken out. Hakoni gets the point. No more heals, though, and will fall. GK first, still a solo.
Yeah, with the assistance there from your boy GK first, able to get a lot done. Team Doom will take him out. Now 4th place for Unicorns Love. Only 3 of these first aid kits remaining. I don't think a lot of these teams have angles on his spot, though. I think Frosty's looking up toward him, though, now. Has beads on. Can't really make the play out. Circle moves down towards the south side, so Team Doom maybe need to start thinking about moving into a position further towards the north and get a little bit more advantage here. To MUERTE, Daniev obviously still healing out.
Hux gets behind the tree and immediately turns exactly the right angle. Beautiful positioning there coming through from Perks, but unfortunately, there's even better positioning from Yankee to get the knock and looks for the flush as well. No way they get across for this res. Team Doom now on 2 versus VP4.
Looking very much like a VP game here. Smokes are out and VP are just pushing it. Not allowing Team Doom to reset in any way, shape or form. 8 eliminations though is good for them. Nade's long, does a little bit of damage, but not quite enough as it bounces off to the left.
That is a really unfortunate bounce, but that's right on the money. Frosty lands it as Old Boy gets a little bit too big for his boots. Turned away at the door, but the knock is there over towards the backstop for Team Doom. So just Frosty. That I have 19 first aids. So quite a while left to go on his run. The MUERTE Classic. As the flush is in, Frosty looks for the spray. Tatulika, who's trapped out in the blue, needs to get up, needs to reposition. Frosty spots him in the grass, but it will be traded off nicely. VIRTUS.PRO with 2. Dadaev healing out for the rest of this game, and it will be the VIRTUS.PRO chicken dinner, as Dadaev doesn't seem to want to move.
He's not going anywhere anytime soon, but Dadaev taking up these points would be beautiful for them. 4 eliminations. And again, they really did fight for this to get into the circle, but they were harried at every single hurdle. In this case, they were not able to get in. They just sent Dadaev back, and he'll pick himself up some nice points in this game. Unicorns of Love didn't go away from this game too unhappy, though. Yes, the rotate from Big was super unexpected. And again, frustrations all around for that team, not able to get the victory from what was a pretty decent position. Just caught off guard there by Big from behind. Crypto, though, once again, the man of the hour for the team, picks up a lot of points towards the end game. Team Doom, though, we have to congratulate them so far. I think as a team that we haven't talked about a lot, they are getting consistently into these later zones, into these later circles. It's really good stuff from them.
VIRTUS.PRO controlling the center of the circle. After this game, likely that they're going to be jumping up for the top spot, I'd imagine. Eastern Stars and MADBULLS ahead of them. And after their 7th game, they will be looking pretty good to be taking that spot. The MADBULLS did survive fairly late in this game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Hang on a minute. Didn't they go down earlier on a crash against Take Aim Gaming? Potentially. I have to double check and go a little bit further back.
Yeah, they were kind of taken apart by Take Aim Gaming. It looked like a good push from them, but Take Aim Gaming just had a lot of control over many of those circles. VP, though, again, if we come to that Team Doom and how they are doing better, the difference between these teams is very, very obvious in terms of the team players. Thank you, Dadaev. We appreciate you. We know you have more first aid kits in the pocket, but you realize that the game is more than likely done at this point in time, so you will not make us suffer another 2 minutes of first aiding, which is why, again, MUERTE is my favorite healing team. They're so considerate. But VIRTUS.PRO with a victory off the back of that one. It looked strong. They held the compound and they controlled those final circles, even when Team Doom had the high ground against them. Great smokes, great angles that they were playing.
Yeah, excellent efficacy with the utility that they had. The compound, sure, it did get shifted towards, and they were there early for VIRTUS.PRO, but they played it very well. I think the holdout against Big was also really, really solid to just turn around and handle that business.
That's GK first to a T, though, right? I mean, this guy has just moments of incredible greatness. 1,400 damage done. I think it was like 19 points that TJB got on that game, if I'm not mistaken. Insane stuff coming through from them. 6 eliminations, too. I don't know where GK first fits in on any team. What I do know is he's able to put up some huge amounts of damage and huge amounts of play when he wants to. Again, a lot of things going topsy-turvy for some teams there, but it was VP who just picks a great compound. I think the craziest thing, though, was that Na'Vi and Arabian champions, they just don't expect them to rotate that early down towards the compound that was held on the crossroads, and Na'Vi just comes absolutely apart there in front of Arabian champions. Not what you want to see from Na'Vi.
No, definitely not. That was quite a quiet board right there. About 20%, what was it, 40% volume, 3/5 of them, giving us the shush. And we're going to shut up for a minute because it's the analyst desks to take over.
Okay, I don't know what we're shushing about, but I do know that Blank is right. That was very fortunate for Navi to meet up against ARP champions and lose that fight, losing their chances to have a good finish here on Sanhok. However, VIRTUS.PRO having a fantastic finish, closing things out, getting themselves a chicken dinner, getting themselves some more points on the board that they kind of needed. But I think for me, as Clarus had pointed out, MUERTE on Sanhok has to be ridiculous.
Yes, since halfway through phase 1, of course, we can even go back to like the first game or two of Sanhok where they'd pushed TJB off of their initial drop spot. They have got more podium finishes, hands down, than any other team here in the tournament so far. So many seconds, so many first places, so many third places, and even a fourth place to boot. But MUERTE is ultra consistent on this battleground. And why? Because they're able to gain 7,843 first aid kits. Very well done.
Is that an accurate number?
Down.
What?
It's totally accurate, guys. Totally accurate.
It was about where you get that from. I mean, they stole that Same position split from TJB, right, on the very first Sanhok game of this entire PMPL, and TJB not willing to fight for it. And yeah, there's so much success with that strat in the past, and it's still not changed in the game itself. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They're going to keep doing the hero strat every single time, and if they keep getting podiums every single time also, why change it? I mean, they've got so many points off the back of that. Yeah, keep on going for it.
That's the weird thing, right? Is that, like, MUERTE showed on Sanhok, heal strat still works. TJB was a team that crowned that back last season, and yet they've moved away from it. We're not sure exactly why, but, I mean, MUERTE just showing TJB that, hey, these are some pretty easy points, to be honest, if you set yourself up correctly. Why not go for it, especially when they're in a position right now where they're looking a little bit risky to even get into the finals?
I mean, MUERTE clearly showed on that first Sanhok, right? They made a statement on that day, I think, saying, we are not going to give this spot away anytime. I think they got 4 eliminations and lost no players on that first fight, if I'm not mistaken. So I think TJB, after that one singular game, were like, well, this is not going to work. Clearly, this team is not going to give up this spot. We've got to try and find something new. And off the back of that, we saw that they've been very inconsistent when it comes to Sanhok. And MUERTE just like, now we don't even have to fight early game. Just get all the loot and get, as Kalara said, like so many podium finishes without really any work put into it.
I mean, it's a single thread in this tapestry, right, of this season and seeing how it goes. But even just the single thread and it being sewn on that first day, that first Sanhok, to have the knock-on effects that it does, to have MUERTE have such a good run on Sanhok throughout now, what is almost 2.5 phases, is ridiculous here. So they're gaining big points on Sanhok, and considering that it is, yes, we did well, but considering that it is, you know, we're playing 5 matches of it every 3 days here, it's an important thing to make, is good results on Sanhok.
Yeah, especially when it can result in you getting more points to go into the finals. Could be, you know, 5, 10, potentially 15 points, depending on obviously how you're doing. And you need those points in the finals. You need that little bit of a buffer as well. You don't want to be starting from, well, basically, what, 4 points, I think, would be like the lowest potential. Actually, not even that, because you wouldn't make it into top 16 and make it into the finals if you got blast every single time. Either way, VIRTUS.PRO closed it out. TJB need to step it up. Big have made a little bit of a step up, though, as we did see in that last match, which was nice to see, actually. Again, they haven't really lived up to the consistency of yesterday, though, again, we're not sure exactly why. Maybe they still have the chance to change some things here. We head into the final match. But we do have one match left to go, and it is on Erangel, so we're going to be interested to see how the teams will play things out here. In the meantime, I believe we have a sweet little video, though, with Unicorns of Love to introduce you to the team. Then we come back, we'll get you all ready to go here for our final match of the day.
Disregarding their hiccups in past seasons, the banner of Unicorns of Love will always remain one of the top contenders from the region. Their bottom place finishes in both the league stage and Super Weekends was a shocker. Now, recuperating from these burn marks, this team is going in with more synergy and some flashy new additions to the roster.
In the meantime, though, Unicorns of Love lower down in the tables. Giants suffering at their hands right now. Salazar and Pocus make that just Salazar standing as Daddy looking to push on through. Unicorns, though, they are down to 2. They need to pick up these flushes, confirm these eliminations, and that's how you do it. The nade over the top from Icy. Boom goes the dynamite. Giants fall and leave Unicorns with 5 eliminations.
Rolkis is the new leader of the roster, who's moving here from Twisted Minds of the MENA region. Thanks to his superb grip on the nuances of the game, Unicorns of Love is already one step ahead of most. Gonzo is his second in command, offering his expertise to the team from his all-encompassing competitive career that features regional skirmishes to global conquest. Reznov comes in as a substitute co-IGL who functions as the support for the team. He already has quite a few achievements under the banner of Unicorns of Love. Then there's Icy, an unstoppable force on the battlegrounds of Western Europe, who's impossible to overpower at close range. The MVP title from the Spring League stage was despite a rocky run from the team. Now, to top it all off, Unicorns of Love has brought on board one of the biggest talents from Pakistan, as well as the South Asian circuit. Crypto is moving here from I8 Esports, and he's bringing his impeccable gun skills along with him.
Get the better out of Maxi, some finish points acquired, but Crypto, he's not going to let anybody pass at all. As Pharaoh, he's going to try and escape with his buggy, but is Crypto going to give him that room and space? As Zameen, he's also getting spotted. He knows Crypto has all that information. He's going to restrict him. Zameen jumping and dancing to his own grave.
Unicorns of Love is a team that looks to create pressure from the edges to maintain dominion both in and outside of the white circle. They stay back from lashing out for elimination points, which, in turn, yields even greater rewards at the late game. We saw this in one of their explosive games in the last season, where they blasted off to a 20 elimination chicken dinner. Packed with bigger names and even bigger plans, let's see if the Unicorns can bring back their glory days at PMPL Western Europe Fall 2022.
Going with one more game today, Blank. We have the Unicorns of Love dropping on in, I believe. Actually, I should double check that before I make that sort of a promise. Make sure they're not going to be sitting this one out. But we're into our final game of the day.
We are indeed. I mean, we have RUTHLESS, NEXUS, XTEAM, and MADBULLS not in this Erangel here. So there is some stuff up for grabs, especially with MADBULLS being quite dominant on Erangel overall. It's a map where they tend to do pretty decently on. VIRTUS.PRO currently right at the top of the standings. There's only 7 matches played, by the way, and 93 points, which is the real kicker. So this is very interesting stuff in terms of the actual competition that VIRTUS.PRO has been able to pick up here. I think that, you know, from the phases, there's been quite an interesting change in how the team operates. Because in phase 1, you had Tulika doing some really good stuff, Mir and Yankee able to support him with Old Boy making some groovy moves. Phase 2, you see Old Boy hit some real highs in that first week, and then the second week, not so much. And then in phase 3, the team as an overall unit looks incredible at the moment. Everyone able to get some massive stuff done, and I think where they can get these points, they will get these points. And now in Erangel, I want to see them maybe even breach 100 points come phase 2. I mean, day 2.
We'll be looking for it on VP's last ride. That's sort of the metric you want to look at as well. For about 100 points over 2 days is on par with, or sorry, it's around the same averages as getting over 300 points in the phase, right? Because you have 6 total days. Divide by 3, blank 300 divided by 3 is 100. I figured that out. It took me a couple of minutes, but I did that. I did it. I got there.
You did indeed. That's all that matters. So you just need 50 points per day, and you get yourself a really decent phase. Now, I did bait you all a little bit. I'm sorry, but now I'm going to unbait, and I will apply the information that was required from me. Right now, for the PMGC points, again, this is not looking likely that it will be that they will be caught, but Game Lord right now looking at 1180 in terms of their point scoring. The closest behind that is Eastern Stars with 1012. So unless Eastern Stars can absolutely just send it over Game Lord and Game Lord continue to just drop into like 15th to like 12th to a 16th position each game, it is unlikely that we will not see Game Lord heading over towards PMGC.
Do the finals points count, do we know, to the PMGC points, or is it just league play? It should be finals as well, right? I
believe it is just league play, but I would have to check that because...
Double check.
We'll have to double check, yeah.
I have to double check that because that would mean that there is much more opportunity for Eastern Stars to earn those points back. As you said, it was about 1180 to 1012, something like that. I think it was around that sort of a margin, which sits at 170 points, right? So if you divide that by 2, then you're looking at if it includes those finals points, then it's probably a little bit more doable if Game Lord continue as they are and the Eastern Stars continue as they are as well. Those point gaps can be made up. If you're making back over 80 points per phase, then sure, potential, but it is going to be, as you say, really, really unlikely that Game Lord get caught here.
Yeah, regardless of that, I think Game Lord, although haven't been the stars in our minds of all these phases, still, that's a 7th place overall currently for them. And after that last game, that should have pumped them up a little bit as well. So they're not doing terribly at all in the Western Europe Fall. Yes, they're not on top of everything right now, but it's not a case of they're a non-starter team. They're certainly not in the brackets of these top teams towards the top and from first place to 6th place downwards, because Game Lord literally is that drop-off. You have MUERTE in 6th place with 514 points, in which case it steadily heads up towards that gargantuan 639 for MADBULLS. But from that, 514 down to Game Lord in 7th place, 453. So you are certainly seeing some of these teams striking out towards that top side. But to be fair, having 6 teams who all look very, very competent and are contending with one another, and we're seeing movement in that general rankings, it's great to see, honestly.
Unicorns of Love down in Novo on their normal drop spot, circle out westward. Na'Vi North George, Pioneer South George, Team Doom, all the way down towards a Quarry Furry Pier split. Shockwave late out towards Gatka on a rotation west from Pachinki.
Yeah, really uncontrolled spaces down towards this western side of the map, and that's purely because we're not seeing Nexus or MADBULLS in this game, so no one's really taking up position down towards Primos where MADBULLS really drop. Nexus isn't controlling a lot of space over towards Gatka, so there's some really simple rotations for Na'Vi and Pioneer alike. I think if Na'Vi really wants to, they could probably get away with heading over towards the north side of Everest down through Ruins into a position there, instead of having to face off against Pioneer and getting themselves on the backfill. It really depends if they want to take that fight or not and get more control further west. I think that will depend on the second circle that comes in, and if it heads further off towards the compounds on the coastal side, on that coastal road. Again, there's going to be a lot of changes coming through. I think our major point of interest right now is the amount of teams on this eastern side. Already, you are seeing VP send away from Rozhok. They looted up as quickly as they could. They've sent to the south side of Ruins now, as they know that there is so much space available on that western side. Getting that space now will be very, very useful for them.
A lot of vehicle-bound teams right now. Look at this train in the middle. VIRTUS.PRO, shots. Imagine ringing out towards Shockwave. TJB pull up short of Death Machine and try and crunch them in. They've got a 2-phase pincer here. RHP pinned in that little entrance to the storm drain. Will be able to swing around and actually take down GK first, one of the heavy hitters for the roster, as we've highlighted in those previous match statistic reports. GK first will get flushed out. Samo not able to spot any of the TJB players moving through, pushes over the ridge and spots Xiao, but he's a little bit too close to the buildings to get fully taken down here.
Yeah, TJB just leave, which is curious to me, considering they had the drop on Death Machine. They weren't aware that this is a team dropping as a 3, though, so maybe they would have been a bit more aggressive to support GK first if he found the initial knock. He doesn't. And now they just turn from like gnashing at the teeth to something very fluffy and non-threatening at all, as they just leave out of here. Arabian champions making their rotate. A lot of teams are early rotating into this circle, knowing that there's so much space available to them. So you're not seeing this massive traffic jam that you might have seen before, which is very cool to see that how many teams are aware of this. So the western side will be filled up pretty quick in terms of teams occupying position, in which case Zone 2, Zone 3 won't matter hugely. It's that Zone 4 that's going to cause the most amount of setbacks for a lot of these teams making their way in.
Normally, on these Western circles, Na'Vi are one of the first to the foothills compounds around Everest. This time around, though, I think because of the space filling that you were highlighting, teams like SHOCKWAVE and VIRTUS.PRO now have outposts there. Na'Vi, I imagine, going to have to post up on the top of Everest, which isn't a terrible position in this scenario.
Yeah, they're carefully rotating through now. They went to the east side of crates, checked if Pioneer had moved across and was playing there, and now are making this South Hospital rotate round the roads into the fields just underneath Everest. This is pretty typical for Na'Vi. If they can get ahead of Pioneer, though, they will be able to possibly hold them out. Now, this is something where I would not like to see Na'Vi take one of their classic massive splits, in which case they can't support one another, because they are now crunched between a fair few teams. John.
Team Doom lose perks for the pan from Hamo. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3 servings of pan. To be able to get that full flush, nicely found, but Team Doom are down to 3. It's all the way on the southwest side, though, so no one really pushing into them just yet. Everyone likely to get held up around the chopsticks around those Gatka fields.
Yeah, again, there's a lot of compounds here which are good, but they're not necessarily towards the center, right? When you're looking at this circle in particular, you don't have that singular compound or compounds that you can send into and then kind of ensure yourself that you're going to be in this next circle. I think a lot of teams were assuming that it would move down from shooting range onto more landmass here down towards the south side, which it does. It's nice to see a lot of teams predict this one nice and early coming through. QODEX down towards Quarry. Big moves in. A little bit of a hairy crash there coming in for themselves. Shockwave does take down Beast. Trazen equally gets knocked too, and Beast gets flushed out, so not a very good start at all there for Big.
They can trade it off. Trazen really far out of the way. Na'Vi moving in to try and put some pressure onto this fight as well. Makes things all the harder. As they did have quite a wide split on 2 in a compound, 1 to the foothill of Everest fully, and 1 a little bit further up as well. So they had quite a wide split there, but they did move back down further south. They actually control one of the strong compounds in the south foothills of Everest.
It's a decent spot, and it's one you'd expect Na'Vi to go to as well. When they slip past so close to Everest, they want to take up position around this area. Tixie does find Trazen, and instantly also Nightmare as well. That's on the res, so I think Na'Vi's had a lot of oversight in this position for quite some time. You wonder if they can pick up these eliminations. On top of it, Trazen tries to slip through the smoke, and most likely they'll there bleed out, and it looks like Matic is going to head up just a little bit further, maybe see if he can post up and find any other angles on that side. Na'Vi do have to be careful, though. This is where they put themselves in these confident positions where, yes, versus one team, this would be fantastic and they can kind of control them. But there are 2 teams off in the distance, so a lot more angles to be playing with fire with.
Nightmare flushed out in the open. Na'Vi, 2nd point on the boards for this game. It'd be good to close out the day on a strong performance for them. Get a little bit more wind in the sails. Get them back up to fighting form, because they have let the mask slip somewhat.
Yeah, again, it's exactly what I was talking about at the beginning of the day, John, is that for Big, yesterday was definitely an outlier. It wasn't if they'd had a decent performance throughout the other 2 phases and they looked somewhat good, and then they were raising this caliber of gameplay into this day, I may have been more sympathetic with thinking, you know, they could do something incredible and continue that onwards. But, you know, looking at the previous phases, looking at yesterday, today is one of those ones where it could have gone either similar approach or dip back down again. And it looks like it has dipped back down again, unfortunately. I think they're finding some more of these angles, some more of these approaches into the circles where they're able to find success. However, not able to finish out these gunfights, John.
Not in the way that they would like, certainly. Circle soon to pop. Blank as teams make their way in. Eastern Stars last to it. On that eastern flank, Shockwave down to 2. That's the lowest player count of any team so far. And that's a heavy south shift. Goodness me, that is quite brutal. Eastern Stars actually kind of given that ridgeline on the south side.
Yeah, a load of field, though, in this area. You can see it almost making a long triangle on that eastern side. So Quarry becomes quite the hotspot at the moment. Unicorns love it. I like the rotate that they made up from Sosnovka. They went to the western bridge, understanding that, again, there's not a lot of teams on this side at the beginning of the match. Ruthless Esports are in Pachinki, so a lot of teams are most likely going to rotate straight in through to Gatka and find themselves some compounds there. So they can easily, for the first time, actually head over that western bridge, which changes things up massively here and gives them an opportunity to find control. Unfortunately, they're not quite in the best of positions as of yet as a unit to hold out teams coming their way. Gonzo, Reznov still lagging behind on the roadside. I wonder if they're going to try and hold any teams that moves across here from the west. But it'd be interesting to see what they do with the rest of the game because they have a chance now.
This is going to get real hairy real fast for a lot of teams moving in on this western side of the next circle. Na'Vi skipped the queue there. They went really fast, ahead of Big, ahead of Pioneer now. They'll have to try and hold them off. TJB bonked off their position by DeMuerte. Lin trying to survive with Sittle there. DeMuerte, you can see they're all grouped on that south compound. TJB on 3 want to keep themselves going and hold on to the little slice of the circle that they have.
Yeah, real central spot here from DeMuerte, and they're able to find it by sending across the fields early on, just speeding through over that flat terrain. Now they're in a spot where they can start to hold out some of these teams. If it does shift down towards Quarry, they will have some slight difficulties find their way into that position. But it is in fact Gamelord who finds the first knock over towards Eastern Stars, who are on that roadside, who've come down from Yasnaya.
ARB have some buildings as well, these mouth of quarry compounds. To be heavily contested, heavily defended as well. Gamelord lose one to the Eastern Stars, trying to trade them off and going well for now. Keme down in the smoke. On his own now as his teammate flushed away. Kapahala and Keme, last 2 for Eastern Stars. He's done a lot before. Can Keme keep it on going? Punching up the hill. Victor spotted, but they come from the car, swinging on in. That was really fortunately timed as Robs hops on out and puts Keme back behind the tree. The nades start to come through, and he has to back off. Keme is split right now from Kapahala, the other player, but they want to reposition to play together. Look at that buggy swinging around the headland on the eastern side.
Good decision there from Robs, actually go for the Molotov, which sends him off the position. Not sure about this one. The bounce on the vehicle does make him hard to hit, but as he pops out there, Kapahala's quite happy to find it. Akashi through the smoke. Now have to defend Robs. Wonder if Kapahala will just turn around, look for the flush there.
There it is. They can get the res. The roll down the hill for Robs will go unpunished for now. The shift is huge, Blank, over to the east.
And the compound directly to the west of Gamelord now becomes so prominent. Na'Vi sending back big. They lose a player in Swave, who most likely will be left out in the dry in that blue. And Na'Vi now have to shift. They might be able to send over the top side towards the north and shift in over towards that fielded area. But again, this is a rough position for a lot of teams to play in.
Pioneer taking on QODEX and winning out the top of the hill for themselves, but they're not quite in the circle. They will have to go a little bit further than this. QODEX are ahead of them in the shack. Shots back from Vito over towards Pioneer's position, but gets knocked. Rezable in the shack. No one to crash it just yet, but one player down. Izumitsu for Pioneer. Leaves them at 3. Down the hill Fash goes. The heals from the rest of the team. They get in the vehicles and are looking to send in after their forward scout. VP are right next to them on this rotation. Yankee slows down, but out into the fields. The rest of the squad go, and everybody's making the mad dash.
It's just not nice terrain to play in. Fash looks for one player towards QODEX, but Woodson will find him. Fash is saved by the bell, and Havlik gets in, but they will have to be quick on that res towards Fash. In fact, both of them, as they switch positions towards the shack itself.
Shockwave and Take Aim Gaming fighting around the side. Hakoni playing on the inside. Aza gets flushed on out. Mind with a backup from the other player of his team. Does get taken down. Should get flushed here. Hakoni on minimal HP. Will have to pop this first aid soon to be able to stay alive into this one. Shockwave do not have the backup. One prediction, Unicorns of Love, one VP, one Gamelord coming through from Kalaris.
I think with that game log prediction, I mean, it goes to show, I mean, if they finish that fight out quickly with Eastern Stars, they could immediately take position in the compound off towards their west, which is one of the only compounds to play here. You look at the circle, and you look where these players are heading towards, you saw that people were closest were heading towards the shacks, John. And that just shows you how little space there is to play within this circle itself. Just looking at it, it's like 50% is fielded area. You can play on the north and the south side, or if you're Game Lord, you can take up residence in this compound down towards the southeast.
Oh, big backstab onto Na'Vi's northern position as they try and sweep out 4 Romanian men. There's only 2 players left from Big, but they put Na'Vi down to 3. 4 Romanian men now feeling a little bit of pressure on that northern side. Team Doom moving in on the south near Unicorns of Love. Nade over towards Gonzo. Will be spotted. Crypto diverts, falls back into the fold.
Team Doom now one of the biggest threats to Unicorns of Love's position down towards the south. We'll have to dislodge them from here. At the moment, Crypto is just trying to pick up as much information as he can towards the players of Team Doom. Just keep swinging forward, seeing if they spot out for just a little bit too much. Nades are a bit far away for Team Doom, but that one's good from Gonzo.
Will be right on the target there, and Frosty gets knocked as well. Nice nades from Unicorns of Love, and they really severely trudge down. Team Doom hops out. Crypto not quite quick enough on the trigger there. Spray down and flush coming through from Joe. And Reznov now wants some retribution for losing Crypto, one of their star fraggers. He does fall down, and 1 player stands now for Team Doom. It's 0 out in the field. Has minimal HP, getting that first aid off. 2 boosters as well. Happy over the top. Should be able to place that well, and Team Doom eliminated.
Ooh. This game must have been emotionally exhausting for Na'Vi. Moved all the way from them on that northwest side, down towards the southeast to Game Lord, now back up towards them on the northwest side where they hold a decent spot. Now Game Lord equally put out and will have to move up towards that northwest themselves from the compound they were holding. Will have a lot of utility mess around with and equal time to move out, but it's across those fields. Now if they can sweep up towards that northern side, towards where Narvalo is currently playing on the north, they can actually potentially get behind towards 4 Romanian men and do some decent damage. Just like that, VP taken out the way, and Game Lord can start to make their move up towards the north.
Slow themselves down a little bit, pre-stimming for the road ahead. They will have to make that break, as you say. Can MUERTE move in underneath Na'Vi and cut them out of the circle? Can they find those opening knocks? ARB under huge amounts of pressure as Game Lord have vision over towards them, but they're on the long side. Will have to move in. Akashi wasting no time. Actually right up and into the mix of it. Akashi has 2 players to deal with on the outside, but he's got teammates to back him up, and they just fall down in his way. Narvalo is there to get the spray down.
Yeah, Narvalo plays on the backstop there. Great aim, great coordination with the rest of his team. Narvalo continues to send forward, zipping around, and just about makes it. Solo HP as well, and they just can't quite take him out, but he provides an anchor point for them. Fortunately, the rest of Game Lord are getting taken apart by 4 Romanian men.
Narvalo down out in the open as well. Akashi knocked on the back. They still have way to go. So do 4 Romanian men. Na'Vi sweeping on that north side. Look at the hills that they control. They have so much more cover than anybody else out in these open fields if the 4 Romanian men go down.
Narvalo currently at 730 damage done. Really did have to make that push. I don't really care how dangerous it was. He needed to provide something for his team to get back up on. And like you say, Na'Vi holding some good hillsides at the moment. Shifted away from them, back towards them. Hopefully he gets something done with it. Akashi moves up, Victor gets knocked, as does Robs. And now Akashi, the sole remaining member of the team.
4 Romanian men. Still trying to hold on to the edge of this circle. Game Lord cut out Akashi. Moving forward on just the rims there. I think he's got 1 back left tire, but that won't last him too long. He will be put back into the shop. And the shift goes down west again. These hard shifts are brutal today.
Still 10 eliminations for Game Lord. They'll be pleased with that. Again, Na'Vi knows that they have to deal with this team. MUERTE on the western side, who have made their approach. They had a decent spot before on the compounds off towards that west on the high ground, but eventually they would have to move towards a position of Na'Vi. Striker, though, spots out some players from Unicorns of Love who are causing some quite nasty damage towards that south side. Unfortunately, now just down to one player in Icy.
No teams at 4 players alive now. TJB have weathered this phenomenally well, given their earlier situations. Zittel and Xiao will be playing as a duo on the southeast side with the cover that they have. Cody is just the ultimate survivor, it seems. Always just keeps on going. Rana cut down very, very effectively there. There is another player to be worried about, Andre. And the nade pull for Xiao is right on the backside and not going to find the knock onto Andre. Was that a res trade? Was that a res trade? No, it wasn't. It was the initial knock onto Rana, and Andre just dodged the majority of that. But he puts another one in. That could be good. No, not quite, but there is a re-knock.
See it again there. Na'Vi just leveraging this high ground. Don't want to leave it. I'll move out from this spot as late as possible. Still taking shots down towards the Muerte, keeping them pinned down. Flyke right on the edge of the blue. Icy taken down by Muerte. That will be another team out there in Unicorns of Love. Cody.
Still going. Still surviving. Hard to stop this guy. Andre down, and 4 remaining men's forward position isolated. Na'Vi actually lose a player to a pick. Hakoni does get spotted, and Shockwave finally finish their run. Tixi going down. Should be resable, but it will slow down potential Na'Vi forward progression. Who are you most worried about here? I mean, Muerte on your southeast side has to be a major factor for you.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that Hakoni would get that nasty pick over towards Tixi on his lonesome inside the shack. Now nades are going forward, and it's gorgeous.
From Muerte as well, they might want to actually push up on this. Meku is low, needing to get that first aid on board. Xiao for TJB might have an angle, not quite. That nade brings them so low, but a sliver of HP keeps them in it, and another nade over the top. Come on, that's got to do it. No, not quite. Meku cannot get the res, but he stays alive. First aid necessary to keep Na'Vi in it. Meku holding off against Muerte around the side as a duo. It's Meku and Kitsune. Spot a player out in the open. Flush Sittel. Solos for everyone else. Muerte with 3 down the hill for Na'Vi.
The main point of contention here is they're out in the open, and Na'Vi has the high ground to just peek over the top with. Their blue is at their back, which forces them to take this engagement. They don't really have a lot of util, I don't think, to ensure they can get these shots down towards the way, and they continue to move over towards 4 Romanian men's position. Muerte, though, unsafe out in the open here.
Meku looking for the sprays. Not quite landing the knock over towards the last TJB player.
Get wrecked out in the open. Nice shot from Xiao there. That's going to slow them down. Great flush as well. Again, it's that open play, which is the problem. But Na'Vi now have to move up. You can see they've got absolutely no utility on board, and Xiao's kind of in his own personal fortress.
Oh,
instead, Na'Vi will take to the skies.
Oh no, Meku run on out, but they do get the rundown, and Xiao now under pressure. Kitsune repositions wildly, swinging around again. Xiao has no idea, he's dizzy, he's on the swivel. Ow! Kitsune! What on earth was that? He's 1v2 now, out in the open. They know exactly where he is. He still isn't quite in this next blue. Ingush immediately out wide to the crate. Flick puts a nade in towards the back, and Kitsune goes down. I've no idea how he was able to win that one out, but either way, Muerte put a stop to the carousel. They pull him back off the horse and take home the chicken dinner on Erangel. What a crazy finish.
Yeah, still, I like that play from Na'Vi. They make it happen fast. Yes, they lose one player at the back of the vehicle, but Kitsune just exudes confidence as he encircles Xiao and then takes him down in those last moments. I can't say much more about that. Either way, Na'Vi gets a good game off the back of it, but Muerte's still pumping those numbers into these tournaments so far, which is great to see. I think if you look at that, though, Na'Vi again held out by a singular snake in Hakoni. Losing that one player, Muerte didn't take any moment's rest there. They knew that that knock came up top side. They needed to push on it. So they sent in, got some good damage done, and then started to move down. They were completely out of the open, John, which does cause some issues. But again, they make it happen. That circle was disastrous, diabolical to play within. Almost 80% of it unplayable by Zone 5.
And Na'Vi nearly were able to take it home, but MUERTE putting more points on the board. This is a team you've got to watch out for. They proved that with another chicken dinner, Erangel.
Well, you know what they say. I'm a snake. Follow me. I was expecting the other guys to do it, but they didn't. Now this is weird. All right, but we see MUERTE take home the chicken dinner and get themselves some extra points on the board. But honestly, I think the story of that match wasn't about MUERTE winning. Kalaris, it was about the hard shifts towards the end.
Rough on it. And great for the teams up in the Northwest, I suppose, for them to be able to capitalize on that. But in a field finish like that, I mean, not only hard shifts are going to be tough anywhere, but in a field finish like that, we saw absolute chaos ensue for any team that was pushed up against it. And honestly, I really feel for them, because there's not a whole lot you can do in scenarios like that. You might have a decent spot in some of those earlier circles, but when the hardest of hard shifts occurs, especially in a flat terrain area, you're done. You are totally donezo.
And it,
see here, 24 points for MUERTE and Na'Vi. Yeah, you better be sorry, Max. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, for Game Lord too, this hard shift, they had actually a really good impact. Sure, they're going to need 1 placement point, 10 eliminations for it. If you have some buildings, if you have a few compounds, a few hiding spots, ridges to transition to make in a hard circle that shifts completely on the opposite side of you, maybe you can make it. It is literally a field finish, and you have a hard shift in a field finish with teams all over the place in positions that you cannot scout, you have no information. It is mission impossible. And Game Lord sure did a very valiant effort to make that rotation work out, but it's a field hard shift circle, and yeah, it's the worst.
Well, looking down the list here, TJB at least get 10 placement points here, getting them 11 points on the game. Shockwave as well, a team that was actually down towards the bottom of the leaderboards, getting themselves 10 points as we move through into the second page. And well, unfortunately, Big, again, can't replicate performance from yesterday. Eastern Stars as well, only 1 point for themselves. Actually, they had a chicken dinner in match 2 on the day. And VIRTUS.PRO, I mean, they had a chicken dinner last match, and they go into this one and get 2 points. So very tough for quite a few teams here.
Yeah.
But again, we're not done just yet. We still have 1 more day here before we do head to a break, and then we still have 3 more days then after of this phase for teams to get as many points as possible. But yeah, the takeaway is, I mean, those hardships towards the end, making it so difficult for any of the teams who were in a good position before that shift to recuperate.
Yeah, but also, I mean, a takeaway, I suppose, from the day as a whole and looking at this win here is, oh my days, MUERTE, what a day they've had, right? 2 wins, a second place just in the between those as well. This has been phenomenal for them. A lot of points coming in from this position. They were very clumped up in this scenario here in this game, and the major threat that could have been was Na'Vi, but obviously they had 1 or 2 moments of bleed out, and then it was a 3v2 towards the end. And MUERTE took it really, really well, even though they were on the lower ground position against Na'Vi. Yep. So
this little nading battle, Xiao just over and over. Was that Rana getting like picked back up and immediately knocked again from a nade? Max was laughing so hard.
Yeah, pretty evil there. But come on, I mean, it happens to me too when I do it. It's fine. But yeah, at the end, they will get themselves some good knock tray, a little bit more space. But Kitsune, I'm surprised actually his like car move worked on. I think it was Xiao off TJB for the longest time, just like rolling around like 3 turns, then got the knock, got a second place, so good from them. But yeah, still not an easy circle for them. But as you said, like MUERTE not only had a good game there, like they had a fantastic day overall. Like MUERTE really just clearing spots today, so very impressive on them.
Yeah, we knew they were a good team, and they're just continuing to show it here. I mean, they were a little bit under the radar in the beginning, but have just been continuing to shine as the days are going on. It is time now to take a look, though, at our MVP on the day. At the end of the whole event, the MVP of the entire tournament will get themselves $1,000. I don't actually want to make you guys guess, because honestly, it's kind of difficult, and we had MUERTE do well. We had MADBULLS do well in a few games as well. If you want to predict, you can, but you don't have to.
I might go with Darev.
I feel like as a MUERTE player, but I couldn't guess who. So MUERTE player, that's my guess.
I would guess Striker.
Striker?
I don't know why, but I would just.
Oh, your boy Gush.
Let's see. No, not my boy Gush.
Friendship ended with Gush.
It's your boy. Yeah. What the?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I have multiple boys. Like I got Jim.
What about Jim?
Gush.
Nah.
I got Kale. That's it on the desk. No one else.
Okay. Yeah. No one else. Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Let's take a look at the MVP of the day here really quickly and see who it will be. Important again to note. Oh, ho, 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 ho.
Imagine that. We suddenly bring up MUERTE and then you get the right player. You had a 1 in 4 shot.
Yeah, but I was the only one to get it right.
Yeah, oh, cool, yeah.
Okay, so I just loaded the stats for MVPs of the day now. I just looked at it also we saw this one. Out of the top 5 MVP contenders, 3 are from MUERTE in order: it's Striker, Ingush, and Flikke. And then you have 2 players of MADBULLS, is of course Zerish and Effect. So they're all up there.
You guys were wrong multiple times. You had a what? You had a what? A 3/4 chance to be right on your player being top 5, and you both failed it.
Yes, quality
many numbers. Simplify.
Anyway, continuing on. Striker did brilliantly. So I mean, MUERTE in general had a really great day off the back of all of this, and I think there were a lot of scenarios where I think, you know, maybe they could have been caught off guard, maybe they didn't go quite their way, but definitely very impressive. And I will say as well, oh boy, did this lobby not need yet another one of these teams coming in and having another pop-off. Because you've got your Na'Vi, you've got your VP, you've got your MADBULLS, you've got your Pioneer. And MUERTE is now saying, it's our turn now. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's pretty insane when I would talk about them, because when you're looking at the start of the tournament, you're looking at your Pioneers and also your MUERTE, like, you know, your new CIS representatives, and they could not maybe close off games, but they were still getting close to it. And I think that Pioneer and MUERTE, in my personal opinion, are the teams that have improved the most from start to finish right now. Can close off games, get consistently in the late game finish. As you stated, Kalaris, always going to be a podium finish also for them on Sanhok. Man, Pioneer and MUERTE took time to get there, but now they are fully ready for the finals.
If I'm reading this correctly, if I'm actually looking at everything, we have 5 CIS teams, correct? Na'Vi, VIRTUS.PRO, Pioneer, you got TAG, and then you have MUERTE. Is that
6.
Okay. And MADBULLS. So let's just say, the point I'm trying to make is 2/3 of the CIS teams that came in are like some of the most impressive teams we've had so far.
Are we surprised?
It's crazy. I mean, a little bit. I mean, I'm surprised in the sense that I had more hope for the Western Europe teams who were here for last season, that like I expected them to be able to perform a little bit better, though I know how strong CIS is. But I was expecting, you know, TJB, they have the most international experience out of the Western European teams, and yet they're the ones that aren't really living up to what you know, they can do in the past. But then they get a PMWI, they didn't look great either. It's tough.
I'm not very surprised, because when we saw previous championships where CIS were still playing in them, and you had like Turkish teams, CIS teams, and also the Western European teams struggled on that stage, right? And just add in CIS teams, I think, made it so much tougher. So I'm not really too surprised this is the outcome.
If you want hope for the Western European teams, Jason, don't look at the overall rankings, okay? For Phase 3, just saying.
Well, we'll get to that soon. Don't worry. We kind of have to before we can end the show. We can delay as long as possible if you want, and potentially just come back on air tomorrow to start the next day of Phase 3 and potentially skip the overalls. But I think we still have to look at it at some point. But not yet. Not yet. Don't worry. We'll get to that in a second. We have to take a look at our results from today. You can see your QODEX starting off strong again, back-to-back, technically, if you want to add in the final match of yesterday. But then thereafter, not able to replicate it yet again.
Yeah, a little bit tough, and I think the main issue also is that we're not seeing Big being able to replicate the success of yesterday. Before this phase, Big were in 16th position on the overall ranking. Of course, yesterday helped them get a little bit higher up there, but not having a good day now, they could slowly start falling off and potentially even not making the finals, which would be a very big surprise for Big to not be able to make it. So a little bit spooked out for Big. We need to see them get back in the swing of things, hopefully tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see.
As Max would also say, uh-oh, spook.
Uh-oh, stinky.
That's okay. All right, let's take a look at what Kalaris doesn't want to look at.
Oh, no!
Overalls.
Oh, God. Oh, it's a massacre. Stop. Oh, I can't. Avert your eyes. Oh, MUERTE looking amazing. Yeah, you have to go a little bit further down to see, as unfortunately for Big, quite the fall today, considering that they could have tried to keep up pace, but all the CIS teams said no.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. They actually did come together and say no. I can confirm that. You can see, though, MUERTE 109, not bad. Well, I mean, there's really not much of a discrepancy, though. Like, there's no big point gaps, to be honest, within this front page alone, but obviously we still have more time for that to happen. But good to see QODEX here. I mean, to be fair, it is good to see Big still on the front page and Eastern Stars, but the fact is, like, for Big at least, one day of good performance isn't going to carry you through this entire event. So we need to see them bounce back, obviously, tomorrow, and then hopefully the 3 days there after that. But let's move on to the second page, though, because I think there's some other teams we want to look at here. Yeah, TJB, Game Lord. I mean, at least for TJB's sake, as you brought it before, Max, able to get themselves into 10th place now. A better sign for them where they previously were.
Yeah, Team Doom able to get himself some good points. I feel like if we were last season, this would be our top page. You know, this would be our first page of the rankings if we were last season, but not anymore apparently. But yeah, some downfalls. Ruthless, I mean, they had a really clear shot to be able to take that PMGC position away from Game Lord, but yeah, it's done. Like, I think them Eastern Stars is done, so Game Lord will normally be, unless you have like one of the biggest changes ever happen, like Game Lord will be the one to go to a PMGC. That means, you know, slots are going to be taken for these teams in the championship. 3 slots, so the CIS teams are definitely going to be gunning for that.
But again, as a shake-up of the lobby in terms of West Europe, what we've seen over the past, you know, seasons and stuff like that, a shake-up like this in this region has never been as severe. This is an extreme change, and we've said it from face to face, and I'll say it again. The fact that we have so many excellent teams joining all of a sudden and the flick of a switch, and they have changed every lobby that they are currently playing in dramatically. So for teams, sometimes that does take a while to change around, and even the big dogs from Western Europe in the past still need more changes.
The thing is, you're looking at this lobby, right? CIS, as you say, like a big mix-up for these teams of Western Europe, like the OG teams. Though, I think this is a great change for the long term. You're looking at next year, how much these teams are learning. Like, unfortunately, the hard way. Like, this is the worst way imaginable. You could be laking and taking lifelong lessons. Next year, no, in spring season and fall season, if the CIS teams stay here, man, like, the European teams can improve so much and take so much from these teams in the first place. So, sure, it's not looking good right now. It's looking very grim, but there's a bright future ahead for these teams if they just learn from it as much as they can.
Oh, look at Max being always a glass half full kind of guy. With how much we beat on him, he still stays positive. I don't know how.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to have my glass full of correct predictions, but that's not happening. So, yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
At least you don't have a curse.
Have you not got a prediction correct in the last 5 days of games?
No.
Can we count the questions? If we count the questions, I got 1 correct today. Okay, fine.
No, we can't.
And I haven't got one.
Actually, has he?
In the last 2 days. No, I had one on.
Well, what was the last 3 days before that?
I don't.
It was all red, I think.
Who knows? They're gone. I don't know.
We'll never know. Yeah, okay.
Well, Max, there is always a chance tomorrow. There's always another day, though we are running out of days for you to get predictions correct. And if you at home want to find out if he does do so, you got to tune in tomorrow to see what's going to happen with not only the games, but also Max prediction ratio, which is just getting worse and worse. We'll see you guys tomorrow for some more PUBG Mobile action. I hope you guys have a good one.
us now. Ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming. We got nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming. Ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming. We got nothing stopping us now.